Got it. Okay. Good evening, everyone. This is the Hideout Utah Town Council regular meeting and continued public hearings. The date is October 12th, 2023. This meeting is a hybrid meeting. It's both in person at the Hideout Town Hall and broadcast on Zoom and YouTube. I'm going to take the roll. So, Ralph, Councilman Ralph.
I'm here.
Thank you. Carol Hazelton.
I'm here.
Thank you. Jerry Jacobs.
Here.
Jerry. Chris Beyer.
Here.
And Bob Nailberg.
Here.
Okay. Welcome all. I have a couple comments not on the agenda to start with before we kick into the full agenda. One is we've got a new setup in the council room. We're hoping to enable us to have people live at the council meetings if they want to participate in person, as opposed to via Zoom or streaming it after the fact. There is a limit on how many people we could put in the council room. We're working with the fire district to ascertain what those numbers are. And that'll hold once we have those numbers, we'll share that. And once we get to those numbers, people who may arrive and want to be there can't come in because we can't have that many people in the room. So we'll have to sort that out. Additionally, the numbers may change and the approach may change based on COVID's performance coming up this winter. It's already making a resurgence and beginning to affect a larger number of people. So over time, we may have to modify that again, depending on doing the right thing for public health and safety. The second thing I want to remind people of, the community particularly, is ballots are coming. There is an election that will be officially on, I guess election day is November 7th.
21st. They changed it.
Oh, they changed. Oh, that's right. It got pushed out this year, didn't it? Yes, that's right.
That's
So November 21st. So there will be a ballot coming. There are 3 council roles up on the ballot. There are 4 candidates, so it's important that you vote. And there's also an item for the fire district, which we're going to hear about just a little bit later this evening, which also is critical and important that you weigh in on. So keep your eye out for the ballots and be prepared. There will be a ballot box here at Town Hall. So you don't have to drive it to Heber or anything to drop off your ballot. If you don't want to mail it in, you can just put it in the ballot box here. Third thing I wanted to mention is I have heard from people that they write to me at my mayor at hideoututah.gov address and don't use the town information request address, which I'll share in just a second. I have to tell you folks that I cannot read every single email from every single person who wants to talk to me. I just can't do it. I apologize for that, but I can't. There's way too much stuff for me to go through that. So if you've got a concern you want to raise with the town, you can write to me, but please copy Hideout Utah at hideoututah.gov. That way it'll get into the town mailbox and the staff can read it and get it assigned to the right person so it can be addressed. If you're just writing to me, chances are I won't see it for weeks, just because of the workload that I have got in front of me. I'm sorry for that, but I can't answer every email individually. Just can't do it. Just for information, so those of you who get upset because I'm not answering your emails, that's why. I can't do it. Okay, let's move on back to the agenda. Next item is item 3, public input. This is, the floor is open for anyone to speak on items not listed on the agenda. Let's start with the meeting room. And Alicia, if you can just, point to people if anybody has their hand up, so we can hear from them, and then I'll look at the dial-in list, see if anybody has a question there. Those of you on the Zoom, the way you do that is hit the raise your hand functionality on your Zoom control bar.
Nobody in the room.
Nobody in the room?
Mm-mm.
Okay, then I'm going to move to the Zoom list. And
Hey, Phil, there's a
I
guy
see-
with his hand up.
I can see that. I was just saying I'm moving to that list.
Oh, okay, sorry.
So if there's nobody in the room, then we're going to move to the Zoom list, and Don Blumenthal, or at least whoever's using Don Blumenthal's login, you should be able to unmute and speak.
This is Carleen Callahan and Don Blumenthal.
Okay.
And I just wanted to follow up on our letter of last month about signage in Soaring Hawk and how there doesn't seem to be any improvement in signage of the properties that are being built. And we'd just like to have that addressed.
Pam, are you on? I don't see you. So I don't have anyone from engineering on the call at the moment. I know that Tim spent a lot of time up there working on the limits of disturbance fences and so forth. So I don't know where we are and all the rest of that.
Yes, the limits of disturbance and some of the trash problems have been addressed, which we appreciate. And we just appreciate if follow-up on signage could be addressed.
Yes, I understand. And, it was assigned to the engineering and public works guys, and I don't have them on the call tonight, so I can't tell you where it's at, but we will take it and make sure you get an answer in the next, by, Monday or Tuesday of next week. Okay.
Okay, both Don and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Alicia, can you make that note, please? So we can chase Dan or Tim on that. Thank you.
This is Chris. Can I ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
Okay, so hey, Carleen, by signage, I mean, I'm looking at last meeting's notes right now, and what do you mean specifically by signage, just so we're clear?
Meaning all the properties that are being built, there's supposed to be a sign with the contractor and the owner visible from the street, and there's a lot of those that are missing.
So those are the permit signs that are posted, correct?
I believe that's
That's the
correct.
right one. Yeah. And that's where we put the stop work orders and stuff as well, Chris, so they should be up.
They should be up. Are we like behind with the printer on those, or do you know why they wouldn't be up?
I don't know
I
why.
don't.
I know there are several properties that have been being built on for months and months and months. This isn't just new. In fact, the newer properties seem to be up. It's a lot of the older properties being built that have never been up or aren't visible.
Yeah, Chris, usually somewhere along the way, they'll get hit by something, and the guys are supposed to be on top of that, and they're obviously not, so I'll chase it.
Oh, okay, so it's not a
Make
problem
sure
for
they
the
get that.
town not having printed and delivered those
No,
signs.
it has nothing to do
It's the
with the
fact that they
printer.
were
We
up
do-
and then they got
Yeah.
for some reason they came down, but it's been a long time. I mean, it does sound concerning to me. I know that in the past, like I've had to call the number on the sign once or twice, when there's been some kind of issue on the property when nobody's around. I've called and it's an important information for the community, as well as, like you mentioned, Mayor, the violations get posted there, et cetera.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that it's slipped behind the guys, so I'll make sure that it gets light a fire under them and make sure it gets done. Even if we have to put up temporary ones until we get the new ones printed. But we'll get it done.
Thank all of you.
We'll get it done. All right. I don't see any other hands, none other in the room. So I'm going to close public input and we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is continued public hearing items. There are two items that we're on. One is discussion and possible approval of a new zoning designation of residential casita. And sorry, Chris, I thought you were finished. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. As you went on to the agenda before, can I ask a question? I think the fire district is in the room, and I was just wondering, because I think that discussion of number 2, the overlay, might be prolonged. Now, I was just wondering if we should adjust the agenda or if that's not possible.
That's okay. Legally, you can.
If it's okay with Polly, we can do that. Sure.
Yeah,
Come
I'm
back
just
to those.
okay. So I'm just going to propose that we get to the fire district, the ballot
Sure.
proposition, as well as fire station updates, and then maybe we can circle back with the longer discussion item.
Yep. Okay. So let's move to that item. So we have with us tonight Chief Hales from the Wasatch Fire District. And I know you've all, at least many of you have heard of the Proposition 9 for an EMS sales tax. I'll let Chief, I can just drive the charts for you if you like. Just tell me when to flip. And you should be able to speak from where you are, I think.
Fine. That's fine, or I can switch over to a PowerPoint either way. But if you just want to scroll, that's perfect.
Yeah, I'm happy to scroll.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mayor, Council, staff, and thanks for the consideration of letting us go. We appreciate that. So my name is Eric Hales. I'm the fire chief of the fire district, and we appreciate the opportunity to take a few minutes to talk about what's become known as Proposition 9. And with that, it's also known as the EMS sales tax. In the last legislative session, House Bill 392 was passed that actually afforded our county an opportunity that hadn't existed before. And those made amendments to the rural county healthcare facilities tax. So prior to that, only counties of the 5th and 6th class were eligible to implement a sales tax and use that for EMS. So this last legislative session, these amendments allowed counties of the 3rd and 4th class to join them. Also made amendments to a specific class 2 county in southern Utah. But with that, it provided an opportunity for us in the fire district of what the way that we can help manage this exponential growth we've been experiencing, and not again continue to put that burden on the property owners as we have. So with that allowed our county's legislative body to implement up to a 1% sales tax, and basically through that resolution to have this put on the ballot for each and every one of you to vote on. They elected to choose a 0.5% sales tax to be applied on goods and services throughout the county. But this includes everything except unprepared food, gasoline, and medication, and other things that are listed in the state code. But everything else is this will apply to. So if we go to the next slide, Mayor. So in this upcoming election, what will be on the ballot ballot, it'll say, shall Wasatch County, Utah be authorized to impose a 0.5% sales and use tax for the purpose of a funding emergency medical services in Wasatch County. So essentially, this ballot initiative gives each and every one of you an opportunity to vote on this, whether or not we want to put this on the ballot. And what this will do is allow us to enhance our EMS as well as our fire presence and resources and emergency response capabilities throughout our county. Even though this is EMS specific, the value add here is that every one of our operational staff are cross-trained in EMS and fire. So as we increase EMS staff, we increase our fire staff. As we increase locations, buildings that we can use this for, we can put a fire truck in it. I can't buy a fire truck with this money, but with other funds, we can cover that. And our biggest expense, obviously, is that of staffing and paying for those people. So that is what Proposition 9 is, and it will be on our ballot. Let's go to the next slide. So the current funding mechanism for the fire district is that of primarily a property tax. 80% of our budget comes from property tax. And with that, anything we want to do to improve our service will have us involve increasing that tax. We know that that's a very sensitive subject right now. So we are looking for ways like this EMS sales tax to actually help us with providing these services without affecting or enhancing that property tax. In 2019, our fire control board actually put into place impact fees, and you guys are probably well aware of those. Those are specific funds that can be used for building of stations, as well as specific equipment as outlined in that impact fee study. Those funds cannot be used for operating costs or staffing. In 2020, right before COVID, the fire district took over the management and ownership of the ambulance service in the county. So we are able to collect ambulance transport fees, but these funds do not actually cover the cost of that operation. And those fees that we charge are actually regulated at the state level by the state health department. We also actively seek grants, but with that, those are very difficult to come by. They're competitive, and they're usually for a specific project or a one-time use. Again, they're not used just for sustainable projects like staffing. Let's go to the next one. So as we kind of look to the future, this slide deck actually doesn't have one of the questions, but over this past few weeks, I've had an opportunity to go visit most of the municipalities in the county. And one of the questions that Midway City asked was, is there a specific trigger in population or density or growth that triggers that you need a new fire station or you need to add staff? And although there are national standards of what they would like you to have when you respond to a structure fire and so forth, the biggest thing what I did is actually compared ourselves to what they do in Summit County. So currently in Wasatch County, we have about 36,600 people, full-time residents. Summit County has 43,000 permanent residents. Wasatch County currently has 2 staffed fire stations, one in Jordanelle and one in Midway. Those are the only 2 that are staffed 24 hours a day. Summit County has 8 full-time staff fire stations throughout their county. We have 3 what we call paid call or volunteer stations where we don't have staff there 24 hours a day. And they actually have 5 in Summit County. We only have 2 staff fire apparatus in Wasatch County. And again, they have 8. We continue to go down this. And the other interesting thing is we have 2 staffed ambulances for our 1,200 square miles. They have 6 staffed ambulances in their area. So that was the best apples to apples comparisons of smaller rural Wasatch back type counties and how we compare. As we've looked at our strategic plan, we've looked at places where we need to provide service. Obviously, our largest municipality, Heber City, does not have a full-time staff fire station. We sought funds last year from the CIB and in the form of a low interest loan, and we are building a station in Heber City with those funds, and that'll actually become our headquarters station. We also recognize the need of a station in Yorktown. And originally, we weren't even going to look at that till 2026. But in speaking with the mayor, and that's again on the agenda, we are looking at ways, kind of out of the box ways of actually bringing services to Hideout this side of the Jordanelle Lake before 2026. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. So with those things, we have at least 3 other fire stations besides the Heber one and the Hideout fire station that we need to construct. Currently, our only option is to either go out for general obligation bond. We can try for another low interest loan from CIB. I doubt they'll give us any more money than they already have. Or we can raise property tax. We felt that if we were able to implement this sales tax, and we'll talk about the benefits of that in a minute, that it would generate enough funds that we could not only provide for the staffing, but we could actually increase our capital facilities funds to actually build these stations without increasing property tax. So if we go to the next slide here. So when we talk about who pays this property tax or this sales tax, again, it's on most taxable goods and services that will be in the county, except for those ones I mentioned. But it's important to note that 50% of the sales tax generated in our county is from out-of-county residents. And I think that's an important aspect because right now, our call volume, almost 40% of our calls, it's actually 39% for our calls for EMS service are from out-of-town people. So they are impacting the service that currently right now, you guys are putting 100% of the bill. So if there is a way that we can shift that burden right now, primarily on the property owners to all, they come and recreate. And this is almost a beautiful view out your window. If we look right across this beautiful lake, we all hopefully we all have an understanding of the impact and the financial impact that the MIDA project area will have with us and what the benefits are and what are some of the issues with collecting property tax on that property for up to 40 years. We will not see that economic value, but with a sales tax, we are able to capture that economic benefit of everything that happens in that project area. And I will, from my previous experience working in a resort community for 27 years, I promise you, having a world-class ski resort, you know, that's double the size in our area, it's going to place a significant burden, at least on the medical side, for our department. So this is a way for them to help fund the services we provide throughout the entire county. Let's try the next slide. So it was asked how many or how much will this 0.5% generate? In the first year, it's estimated about $5.2 million. And again, these funds will be able to, we can use them for our capital facilities and as well as our staffing and to purchase ambulances and other things like that. And it's anticipated that this money will grow over time as the tourism grows, as the population grows. We all understand that even with the sales tax, all our residents will still may be impacted, but the discretionary nature of a sales tax versus the non-discretionary, if we raise your property tax or an income tax, is something that we feel that it's more beneficial for to our citizens, but they actually have a choice of what they're purchasing. So if we go to the next slide. So often, a lot of people have asked, what does this mean to me and my budget? And every one of us in this room is different in what we spend our money on. Essentially, the impact will be about 5 cents for every $10, about 50 cents for every $100. Just had an example of your favorite beverage, whatever that may be, will cost about $2.50. It'll add about a penny to that. There's a couple of letters to the editor in the Wasatch Wave today. One of them kind of spells out the cost of different items, then what the impact would actually be to that on their purchase. We go to the next slide there. So it's often asked, what about property tax? The fire district will continue to collect property tax. This tax, again, is primarily for EMS services, but again, 70 to 80% of the services we provide and our calls for service are that of EMS. So we feel this works very well in our current response model and then what we actually do. We will continue to collect property tax, but it is anticipated that as this revenue from sales tax increases, we will be able to decrease the amount of property tax collected. We have done all the projections we have done with our CPA and our finance people shows a decrease year over year in the property tax paid to the fire district. So we feel that that's very fortunate, and that's a very positive thing with this. We also understand that sales tax is volatile. We've been with a property tax, we've had a very stable income source. So to rely completely on a sales tax would be difficult. If we had an economic downturn or another pandemic or whatever, that could have an impact on that. So we will have that balance. I would guess, at some point, our property tax versus sales tax would almost represent this 70-80, the 70-30 split, like between fire and EMS over time. But obviously that we will have to use the property tax collected to help fund to build some of these stations. But again, over time that will decrease, and we shouldn't in our foreseeable future see a property tax increase from the fire district. Let's go to the next slide there. So quickly on this slide and in your packet, it does show a sales tax comparisons, and quickly point out Wasatch County is currently at 6.45%. Summit County is 7.15%. Utah County is 7.15%, and Salt Lake County is 7.25%. Just trying to compare us to our adjacent counties. And with this 0.5%, the proposed adjusted would bring Wasatch County up to 6.95%. We are still significantly less than our other counties' base rates. We know that there are municipalities that have some increases and so forth. Some of them have additional tax, tourist tax, and resort taxes. But as we compare, if we compare apples to apples, that's our best comparison with that over time. You just go to the next slide. I think that is ultimately what we're trying to accomplish with seeking this Proposition 9 and this EMS sales tax. Again, decrease that burden that right now is on the backs of our property owners. If we can share those costs and offset those costs with the people that actually come and utilize our services, whether they're just passing through, they're visitors, tourists, whatever it may be, if they can help share that burden from you guys, that's what we hope to accomplish with this. Ultimately, we want to enhance the quality of service that we provide throughout the community and to promote, again, a well-prepared and safe community. I appreciate your time. I know there's a lot of stuff going on. I'm more than happy to answer any questions, whether you have some mayor or council. staff, anybody online?
Well, I don't have a question because, as you know, I'm pretty familiar with what you're working on, but I will absolutely tell you that I'm highly supportive of this approach. I think it's a win for the community. It's a small price to pay for a big result for health and safety of the community. Chris?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Chief Hales. I was very excited to hear about this. I'm very much in support of better, different funding sources and the expansion of EMS and fire services, especially in our area, but everywhere, because it's actually, I didn't realize that Heber City was just having their station built now, and I just really surprised they didn't have a station. I mean, that's a lot of territory with only, as you mentioned, two 24/7 staff stations. It's an unbelievable amount of land, of area for you to have to cover. But my question is, with this ballot measure, do you have plans to, I guess, socialize it to the community, beyond what you're doing with us, with meetings, and I suppose with meeting with the other communities, like, for example, sending out, when the ballot measure's out, I think, Alicia can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there can be like for and against arguments, and I'm just hoping that someone will take the time and write a really strong for argument to try to educate the voters on why this is important.
Yes, Chris, thank you. There is actually a voter information guide on the county website that actually talks about this. We did, the county did solicit for and against arguments for this. We did not receive an against for this. We do have one for that's on there that is printed. So on the ballot, and especially on their little carousel screen, it slides through. They do have a link to that ballot proposition. And well, it's not the proposition, it's the actual voter guide that talks about the language and other information in there. So yes, that's a really good point. This is about as much as we can do as a fire district, is that I can go to the town councils and county councils and we can talk about information. We can't tell you yay or nay on any of those things. So this is about as far as we can go. We do know we have a grassroots committee in the community. Again, in the Wasatch Wave, they have a half-page ad that they pulled out. A lot of this is being funded through the Wasatch Community Foundation on their website. And this committee is made up of citizens, a handful of citizens throughout the county. They have made yard signs, and I know we talked about signs here. I don't know if you will allow those in the community or not, but they have those. And again, these ads on the paper. I voiced over a version of this presentation and presented it to the Wasatch Taxpayers Association. They're going to provide it on their website as well. We don't have traffic. I'm sure this time of year they want to get quite a bit of traffic on there as well. But yeah, and people are trying to post things on, hopefully ask whoever those different websites. So anything that the town can do, I'm not sure what you guys can do in support of this, if it's individually or collectively. Obviously you have to make your own decision if this is a good thing for the community or not. But we appreciate we have Marlon McMillan here who is on our fire board and the county council, and he's been supportive of this, and we appreciate him with us as well.
I got a comment, or thanks, that was really well done. We got a good presentation. Can we put the presentation up on our website or a link to it? Obviously, something that explains a little bit more in depth what or where to go to find.
And I can actually provide you the one that has the voiceover version too. It's up to you guys. It's,
So one question I did
Yeah,
have
we-
on the numbers,
We can do that, Ralph, no problem.
yeah, that's, I mean, so, you know, get more people.
Do we, you probably know, because as you said, but I think under state law, we're not allowed to advocate, but we can provide the
provide
information.
information.
So when we put it on, we can't say, we think this is the best
Or not.
idea ever, vote yes. It's just, here's more
Here's
information,
more information, or here's the information that was provided and.
right?
I'm gonna, before you leave, I'm gonna ask you on the numbers, guys, so, how far under budget do you think we are? If we're gonna get 5 million, first year, and we're still keeping the level property tax. Did you figure out in your pro forma or your projected sheets, you said to talk to an accountant, how far are we under, so to speak, to get to a place where we have more fire, more firehouses and station to the point with one in Cooper, one here. So how do we get to that point? That's one question. And, I don't know if we have enough time to answer that, but the second one was, could we put more of a financial burden on the folks who are renting hotel rooms as an example? That comes out in the sales tax. So you're going back to your point, 50%, I think one of the numbers in here shows that 50% comes out. We're trying to do the same things. We're trying to create commercial revenue, but to a large extent, put a little bit more burden on the folks coming into town rather than the folks living in town. So have you looked at that option?
We have, and currently right now, we collect some of the, what we call the TRT funds, the transient room tax funds. It's interesting in state code, they limit that. They stop allowing EMS to utilize those funds once you pass. We're currently a 4th class county, but I think we're 2 babies away from actually being a 3rd class county. So as soon as we become a 3rd class county, according to current state code, we're not eligible for those transient room tax funds. We are obviously eligible for the sales tax funds, throughout, being a 3rd class county and so forth. But, so I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah,
So we can't get any transient tax out of this. Is that what?
well, once we transition out of a 3rd class county,
Yeah.
we will no longer be eligible to tap into the transient room tax that has already been passed. We're currently getting a little bit of that. But the sales tax obviously will go through. And again, one thing I didn't say, and this is, once this is in place, if this is in place, it's good for 10 years. After 10 years, the elected body, the county council will basically look at it. Okay, are we good with where we're at? We need to do away with it.
Yeah.
If we need to increase it, that would have to go back to the voters.
Well, I'm thinking if, we get a lot of influx of, a couple of the hotels, maybe we won't need in 5 years. So Carl, you're here. What's the thing saying that, we can't collect?
Well, what Eric said is entirely true. We're 2 babies away from slipping up where we don't get this benefit. And we want to grab it as fast as we can and do as much with it as we can. Will the increased sales tax cover a lot of these things once we slide out of being able to collect this? God willing, okay. But where it is right now is Eric needs money to fund these EMS, and this is a very apropos way of accomplishing that.
And it expires in 10 years?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. I don't think that was in there.
Yeah, no, it's probably in my notes, but as I didn't go through my notes, I just went off this. My memory's not as good as it should be. But to get to your other question, as we've done some projections, we actually, so in 2023, we'll collect about $6.5 million in property tax. If this were to go through, our goal is to switch that to about $5 million in property tax, and the balance of it coming, and the other 5 million from that. With that, that allows us to build up our reserves, funds, our capital project funds. And then that'll allow us that if we do that over a couple of years, we'll have about $6 million, because it'll take about $6 million to build the station, even though you guys are gracious enough to provide us a little plot. You know, it's gonna take some money, and that's in 2023 money, we'll know. You know, so that's kind of what we're looking at. It's not gonna be the largest station, only 2 bays, hold about 5 individuals when it's fully staffed. So it'd be better than the trailer that we're working on right now. That's kind of where what we hope is that as the sales tax increases, slowly we can get down. But again, as volatile as that is, we don't ever want to see that property tax go the other way.
What's our sales tax growth at the county level now, probably, you know?
No,
Growth rate?
it's pretty steep, but I don't remember that number. Do you, Eric?
I know we estimated on a 10% growth, and I know it's significantly more than that. And what it historically has been, if Dustin were on, he'd probably.
Yeah, if Dustin were here, he could spit it out.
Spit it out, but I know whatever that number was, we tried to back it out and be pretty conservative with that growth, just so we didn't
Yeah,
overshoot.
that's an interesting number. That's an important number to
Yeah,
Yeah,
kind of zone into. Anyway,
I've heard Dustin say it and I don't have it.
but I know it's more than 10%.
Yeah, it is.
So,
okay.
thank you. I know there's a couple hands up there.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and get to those. Ralph, you finished for now?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Bob, you were next, so.
Yeah, hey, thanks. Thank you, Chief, and thank you and your force for all you do to serve the community. Couple of questions right here that I know some of the residents will have. I have. Let's say, for example, somebody here in Hideout has a heart attack. They call 911. Is it one of your EMS vehicles coming to respond to that, or is it going to be a private ambulance taking us to perhaps Intermountain Healthcare in Park City, or maybe downtown Salt Lake? How does that work?
It will be a Wasatch Fire District ambulance. We hold the county's license for ambulance transport service throughout the entire county. So the closest one we have right now is at Jordanelle. Is the closest ambulance.
All right. In the event that it's a really, really bad, let's say somebody has a severe injury, like maybe a gunshot wound. I would imagine you would be transporting them to Salt Lake City to a, what do you call it? A level 1 trauma center. I don't think we have that here in Park City.
No, we don't. I believe Park City is a level 3 trauma center, maybe a
Okay.
level 4.
I think,
But 4, it's a 4. I know they were trying to work on a 3. But what we'd also do is we have an air ambulance. There's actually, if they're in-house, they're actually based over by Home Depot.
Mhm.
In Park City, so just by the sewer ponds over there. So that's a resource that we would use for a more rapid transport for that trauma 1 center in the Salt Lake Valley.
All right. And then I'm just doing some quick and dirty math. It looks like basically with the revenue your department gets from sales tax, and then what is proposed, the 0.5%, I'm sorry, the property taxes, and then with the proposed 0.5% sales tax, it looks like basically your income roughly doubles. Am I understanding that correctly?
That's what it appears. Yeah, right now, that's exactly what it would be.
Okay,
About-
and then some of that's because you guys are in a budgetary shortfall. But basically, if you're doubling the revenue coming in, are you looking at basically doubling the EMS and fire department forces as far as personnel and equipment?
Yes, so right now I have on duty, I have 10 firefighter EMTs or paramedics covering the county. By the time I open the hideout, or the time I open the Heber station, I will add 5 more a day. I will double the actual daytime force. And then I will also have 2 additional people in hideout by January 1st, working on that with the mayor. We'll probably talk about that in a sec. But as soon as the station's built in hideout, I'll have another 4 to 5 in here. So I've already doubled my staffing. And then that doesn't include one of the slides that we didn't spend a lot of time on. I will need another station on Highway 32 towards Victory Ranch. I will need another station towards the new north annexed area of Heber City, since they've annexed essentially to the base of the dam. So station 56 is your station, where it's located on that little triangle. That gives us, and that whole, all that pink that you would see if you zoomed in on that is actually that 5-mile radius. So it really covers your town very well. That station 57 is the one, whether we call it Benlock, Victory Ranch area, that's where that station would be. And then station 58, just depending on how quickly that annexation and the build out of North Heber City, they'll need another station on the north end of Heber. That doesn't include the fact that I need to provide better coverage in the communities like Timber Lakes and Wallsburg. Right now, they have basically garages, they have some equipment. I do have some staff that lives in Wallsburg. I don't have any on my staff that lives in Timber Lakes. So all that response and resources right now is either coming from Heber during the day or Midway at night. That's about a 20-25 minute ride. And we know that even though our station's right across the lake, you would think they'd be here quick. We know it takes about 15 minutes to get on this side of the lake. So with that station, even at Public Works at temporary, that's going to cut 7 to 10 minutes off that, depending on where we're at.
And these are all 24-hour stations. Did I understand that correct, or are they part-time?
The ones we're talking about will all be 24-hour stations.
All right, well, that sounds good. The 0.5% sales tax increase, that actually sounds pretty high. And I mean, I can tell you, people in Hideout, at least the ones I've talked to, myself included, we kind of feel that Wasatch County's using us as their personal piggy bank because our property values have gone up so much higher than the rest of the county. So I'm not sure what the appetite in the community is going to be for a additional tax burden, but I can definitely see the benefit of having a full-time firehouse in the community. You also mentioned that roughly 39%, almost half of your calls are going to people from outside the community. Would it be safe to presume that's mostly probably traffic accidents, perhaps the majority of them being on US 40?
Not the majority, but we also remember that we have 3 major reservoirs, one right below you, that bring in millions of visitors each year. So we cover up the Strawberry, Deer Creek, and Jordanelle. We also have areas like Cascade Springs, a lot of UTV accidents of Center Creek and the different areas of the county. So we do a lot of even backcountry and off-road stuff as well. We do get our fair share, I will tell you, of accidents on 40 and Highway 189. But let's just give you a little example. The couple Sundays ago, we had a horrific accident on 189 going towards Provo by Wallsburg that resulted in a fatality. While that was going on, we also had a chimney fire in, and again, remember, we had about 10, 11 people on each day. We had that accident, we had a chimney fire in Red Ledges. We had a medical call at Daniel Summit Lodge. And then we had a cardiac patient that needed to be transferred to a higher level of care out of our hospital. We do not have the resources to even come close to deal with that. And you would think these are exceptions. These are happening every day. We're averaging over 10 calls per service a day, and each one of those EMS calls lasts approximately 2.5 hours at a time. So the demand is there. We've kind of painted ourselves in a corner on a few of these things. So we're doing what we can to, again, shift that burden. So we know you're taking the brunt of the property tax now. So if we can shift that to a sales tax, and I don't know how much each and every person spends at a Hideout in Wasatch County on sales tax. But if we can shift
We're
that,
probably spending more in Summit County, in Park City. So actually, sales tax works for the benefit of Hideout rather than the reverse. Just, hey, Bob, if you think about it, if it takes off the property tax because we're high property values, it actually works in our economic favor. Because we're probably spending more money in restaurants as an example, in our city. So we'd be much better off creating commercial here, getting that sales tax, that goes to you, we're spending on our local, on our local property. That's what we don't have quite yet, but that's what we need. And then right now, we're probably pushing all that money into Summit County through what we spend in Park City. So this is a good thing, in terms of that, yeah.
That's a good point, Ralph. Yeah, I can tell you in our household, probably the majority of our spending subject to sales tax probably occurs outside this area. There's just not a lot of places to spend money on.
When we will get impacted is if we can get some restaurants here or some commercial, then actually that money will go to our own county to the support of our own resources. Right now, we're giving it away, So.
Yeah, all right, good point.
So
Sorry,
one thing I would say, Bob, to your comment on this, the thinking that it's excessive amount, is that purple area that's shown on the map, that 5-mile zone, that's going to change your property insurance significantly, because you're going to move zones from a fire. So everybody who owns a home in the area is going to benefit from this. And I'm going to talk about that in the next part of this discussion, because we're going to work with the community beyond Hideout. I mean, Hideout's working hard to try and bring this capability inside our area, but we're going to need help from the neighbors up and down 248, and they're all going to benefit. And my expectation is they're all going to help, or we're not going to be able to do what we want to do. So that's the goal. I'll talk about that in just a little bit. Carol, I know you've had your hand up for a while. Let's let you go ahead.
Okay, thank you. You took the words right out of my mouth, Mayor. I just wanted to talk about the property insurance and how many people have lost their insurance because there's not a fire station close. I have friends in Deer Mountain, Deer Vista, the Retreat at Jordanelle, and at Black Rock. And all of them are very concerned about getting a fire station here. So I'm just asking Captain Hale to go out to those communities and make your pitch as well, because they want a fire station here, and I think that they will be supportive of what you're doing and trying to get the money or your whatever it is passed. So please go to those communities as well, because I think you'll have a good result.
I'll be talking about that in a minute, Carol, about
Okay.
what Hideout needs to do next. So yeah.
Okay, all right.
That's
Thanks.
another,
Yeah, we intend to go hand in hand to all those communities and saying, if you're going to benefit, you're going to help. If you don't, we're going to lose your number. That's not true, but though I've already closed public input, Don, go ahead and make your comment, or whomever.
We just want to say we're entirely support of this sales tax, not property tax, sales tax. And we think that has to be the emphasis to the community.
Yeah, no doubt.
Can I just add about property tax? I mean, I have my tax notice in front of me, and we don't pay the fire district that much. Pay them a little bit less than on the tax bill than the town of Hideout. So it's not that much. I mean, the bulk of our taxation is really around the school district. That's where we're paying a ton of money. So I just want folks to, I know people don't like property taxes, but just like you don't pay that much to the town of Hideout on your property tax bill, you don't pay that much to the fire district either. There's still room there.
Sorry. Did you have something else you wanted to add, Carol?
No, sorry,
Okay.
I thought I took the hand off.
All right, no. Anything else for the chief on his presentation tonight, folks? Okay, then we're gonna jump to item 2 before we go back to the public hearing items, which is the fire station update and contributions. So, the chief came to us and said, is there any way that we can put up a temporary facility? We bring an office trailer, office and bunkhouse type trailer in, bring a 40-foot trailer and hook it up, use one of the bays in your public works area and get started. I met with Tim and Dan, and we've kind of worked out a way to do that. We would give the fire district the bay that the salt is currently stored in, and then because they need a lockable separate facility from the rest of the place because it's got EMS stuff in it, and it can't just be in the same place that we're welding and cutting and all the rest of that. And then we're going to put up a temporary structure down there, similar to what you see at the bus depot on US I-80 going up past towards Jeremy to put the salt in. So Tim's been working on that project. We've got an estimate for what it's going to take to get that set up. And we're going to have to raise some money. And so I've been working with Polly and Cameron on that. And the way it looks like we can do that is that the town can amend its budget to add a line item to support the fire and EMS for the town. And then we would fund it through donations. And so my plan is to put a stump speech together, and Tim's been working on that for us. We've got drawings and everything else, and go hand in hand to the communities up and down 248. I've already talked to Toohey, they're very supportive. I've already talked to Deer Mountain, they're very supportive. I imagine that everybody else will be as well, again, for the benefit of A, the quicker response for EMS services, and B, because it's going to impact their tax bill. Their property insurance bill significantly. So, we're going to go stump and see how much we can raise to get this thing moving. We need to put some paving in down there. We need to hook up the trailer with water, sewer, and power. We need to put some heat into the salt bay, which currently isn't heated. It's not significant. And we got to get this temporary structure up. So we've got the engineering guys working on an estimate for us. I'm guessing at the moment somewhere between $250,000 to $300,000 to get it all done down there. But we're moving ahead as quickly as we can. And then we'll get it up and running. As Chief said, his goal is to get somebody in there by the 1st of January. We'd love to do that. May take us a little longer, or we may have to do it in stages. That's one of the things, Chief, I was going to have Tim meet with you guys about is depending on how quickly the funds come in, we may have to, the paving may have to come in the spring. We may have to figure out how we're going to get through the winter with hard pack, and then as the funds come in, go after improved paving down there. Because it's getting late in the season, and paving in cold weather isn't a great idea. And B, I don't know that we'll have the funds. I mean, we got to get the salt and your trailer hooked up first, so then we can figure out the road work. So that's where we are. I just wanted to share that with the council. And then again, the goal is to not use any town funds for this. We're going to go put together a contribution opportunity. So people would write a check to the town for the use for the fire district or the EMS station, and we'll try and collect what we need from the communities. Again, we've got pledges, not dollar amounts, but commitments from Deer Mountain and from Toohey for sure. And I think they'll, as they are set example for that, I'm sure we'll be able to piggyback on that, as Carol mentioned, and go hit the rest of it. BlackRock's going to benefit significantly. So will the lumberyard. So will the businesses up near the lumberyard. So I think we have a chance of getting some help. So that's the summary on that. Chris?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. You had mentioned paving. I mean, it's mid-October. The
Yeah.
asphalt window is about to close. So is there no way to somehow get the paving done? I mean, I know, aren't we working on our roads right now? Are they finished? I mean, do we have a paving company here already?
Yeah, the work that was done is finished. I mean, our target quit date is, October 15th to be done with all the paving stuff. But, so we got a lot of other stuff to get in place first, Chris. I mean, I'll get it, we're gonna put down hard pack and gravel, whatever it takes to get these guys up and running. But, there is a paved strip already in there. We just don't have, they can't make the swing that tight, so we need to widen it up down there. So we have to look at that and figure what the minimum amount we could do to get it, get something in the ground in the next 30 days. The trailer's not even, I guess it's coming, but next week, Chief?
It is coming on November 6th is what they've promised.
Okay, so we got a little less than a month to get that done. So we're working on it, Chris. We'll figure out the best we can do and make sure that it's workable for them.
Chief Hales, is it possible to bring, an apparatus down there without the paving?
Yes, we actually used some capital funds and bought what's considered a mini pumper. It'll just have 2 people on it. It has a 1,500 gallon minute pump. It has the fire complement, and it also has medical gear for our first response stuff. So we will be able to, it's built off of F550 chassis. So it's not the big, huge pavement princess type fire truck that you normally see driving down the town. So it's 4-wheel drive. It'll work.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mayor, Glynis has a question. Is this is a temporary fire station, correct? And we're looking at that triangular land to put a permanent station?
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
So this is to allow us to get going before the 20, I think you had 2026 or 2030 up there, whatever it was, 27, to get something into town. So, as Chief generates, if the sales tax goes through, that'll help, generates the funds to build. He needs, I think he said $6 million to build a building. We're happy to work with, we got a vision for how that space is going to get used. We have a number of project visions that we have to bring back to you guys at some point for you to look at, but the intent would be, that's a great spot for them. It's relatively flat on that, in the lower part of that property, gives them a chance to in and out. Ideally they don't want to back in off of 248. We understand that, we wouldn't either. So, the station design is a pull through. So, and more to come on that. I have a team working on the future of that. Thomas and others have been working on that for us. So as we get that thought through, we'll get that in front of you as well for comment. So yeah. Anything else there? Okay, well, thank you, Chief, and appreciate you coming in, helping us with this, and we'll be in touch when we need to go knocking door to door. It's going to be like trick or treat for Halloween. We're going to knock on the neighbors' doors, and instead of getting candy, we're going to get dollars. So.
Well, thank you guys for letting us come.
We'll all dress up in, fire uniform.
Absolutely. There you go.
In mass.
All right, so I think now we'll jump back up to the public hearing items. And then we'll come back down to the agenda. So we're gonna do item 1 on the continued public hearing items is discussion publication of new zoning for residential casita. I guess that, as I understand that, that's not ready for us at this point, so it's being continued to a date certain, and that's December 14th for the town council meeting on December 14th. I guess it's going back to planning commission for some additional work.
Correct, so you'll want to open the public hearing and just see if anyone wants to speak as to that and then continue it.
Okay, so that's the recommendation from the team because they don't have it ready for us at this point. So it has been talked about at least Thomas at least once in a couple of times in planning commission, but it's not here yet, right? He's still there. I don't know.
Yes.
Thomas, you still in the room?
I am.
Yeah. Okay. So I will open that comment, recognizing that we don't have anything but some preliminary reviews to talk about. But if anybody has a question on that, we can try and address that here. So in the council room, Thomas, you can call on them, and I'll look for hands on the Zoom.
Okay.
Okay.
There's nothing there.
Nothing on the Zoom as well. So I would like a motion to continue the discussion and possible approval of a new zoning designation of residential casita to a date certain of December 14th, 2023.
So moved.
Thank you, Bob.
Second, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, Sherry,
Yes.
you okay to move that? Thank you. Ralph,
Yes.
thank you. Carol, hey, Carol. Carol Hazelton. You come off mute and tell us if you're okay to.
Oh,
Carol, are you there? Maybe she stepped away for a minute. By a break. Chris? Okay to
Yes,
defer to December 14th on that one? I mean, November 14th, or December 14th, yeah.
yes.
And Bob?
Yes.
So we have enough for it to carry even without hearing from Carol, so motion carries. All right, the second one I want to talk a little bit about before we get into this ordinance, because I've been working with Polly on this and there's some points I need to share. I'm going to be recommending that we table the item until a date to a date in the future. So, we've been discussing short-term rentals for quite a while, on and off in the council and in planning commission and in surveys and so forth. The state code changed in May of this year to allow for regulations which are otherwise prohibited unless they are done through a development agreement, which goes through the same procedures for enacting a land use regulation. Okay, so it includes, including a recommendation from the planning commission and a public hearing. So this change in the law allows for the ability to do short-term rentals through a development agreement, which actually is to our advantage because it's very specific to a development agreement and whatever elements we might choose inside that development agreement that could be subject to nightly rentals, just as we have today with our development agreement in Deer Springs Phase 1 and in Clay. The Planning Commission had raised a number of concerns about having a broader overlay zone because once you create the overlay zone, then it becomes available for the whole zone to consider. And whereas we do it in a development agreement, we can be very specific. So, so we think that instead of looking at an ordinance to create a short-term rental overlay zone, we would instead look at whether or not we would then look at how we would modify the MDA for Deer Springs to allow the short-term rentals in the areas that we'd be willing to allow them in. For example, the uphill side of Jordanelle Parkway, where there's some discussion already about those. I think they're being called casitas. So with that in mind, that I would recommend that we would table this item and have Nate work with the MDA, or work with us on the MDA adjustment, and then sit down with public hearing and the Planning Commission and see if we can get see if there's any interest in what he wants to do down there. So Polly, did I get that right? Is there something you want to add to that?
No, that's exactly right. And I think we just approach it. I think that that's a good recommendation, especially in light of the difficulty the Planning Commission had with having it be an overlay zone over the entire town and then exempting certain areas. This just really allows you to focus on an area within a development agreement, and then you can balance, whether that use, if you can mitigate it, and what other amenities would be required that are being provided within it, what the impacts would be to the homeowners. So I think that that's a strong way to address it.
When did this change probably come about? Did you say May?
It passed this legislation. I mean, it existed in another form, but it really became a lot stronger this year in May, and it was effective May 23.
Do you see a trend occurring around, the use of MDAs then in the state as a mechanism for these,
There was
compensate for the overlay zone?
No, I think development agreements have always been used, and there's been litigation, and a lot of times the legislature reacts to litigation. So there was a case in Moab 2 years ago, I think, where there was a development agreement and they didn't jump through all the hoops and go to the Planning Commission, or it changed a lot. I don't remember the exact details. I haven't looked at the case for a while, but that basically, I remember that the outcome of that case was you have to, if you're doing an DA or MDA, and it's changing, let's say, a regulation, a land use, you need to go through, notice it as if it's a land use change in an ordinance. Have Planning Commission, have a public hearing, and jump through all those same things so that you're not doing things outside of the public process. And that was the big issue in that case. So is it a trend? I mean, I never know with Utah. Utah's a very pro-development state, obviously. And so there are a lot of means to try to get to a situation where, hopefully this creates a situation where it's a win-win. We can't require someone enter into a development agreement, But,
But it's likely we'll see more of those than, yeah.
well, the whole town is development agreements.
Yes, well, and if we do any annexations, that will probably follow suit as well.
Yeah, I mean, your entire town are development agreements for
Yeah, I mean, we have a master development agreement for, a majority of, I'll call Old Hideout, and we have one with Deer Springs, Deer Waters, Claim, et cetera. If we have a presentation coming up shortly on the Bloom project. If that were to move forward, there'd be an NDA with that. So they're not new to us by any means.
and they're not required, like, for example, in Bloom, if they wanted to develop it with the underlying zoning, they could just come in and get building permits, right? And it wouldn't be required. But everywhere, so far, everyone has gone through a development agreement in the town.
Yeah, good point. If you want to build one, if you're zone 1 per acre and you want to build 1 per acre, then you don't need an MDA.
Wouldn't that be a new subdivision though? Polly? Like, wouldn't they have to go through the whole subdivision, land, approval, et cetera? You were talking about the Bloom area,
Yeah,
that
they
whole,
would have to, right now, it's just 2 big parcels, as I understand it, so they would have to go through a subdivision process.
okay,
But if the subdivision, if what they were proposing met the underlying zone, then there wouldn't be a need for a development agreement. It would just go straight through as a subdivision, which doesn't require a development agreement.
okay, thanks for clarifying.
So right now, are you thinking we scrap the BRCA at this point, or?
I mean, it's your policy decision. There's pros and cons to having short-term rentals. You have the information about the financial benefits. The flip side is, and we have a member of the planning commission here, if you want to hear anything, but the planning commission recommendation was very measured in terms of their recommendation, because they had a lot of issues about where this was going to go. Was it going to impact existing neighborhoods? And so maybe just putting the brakes on this and just trying to address it through individual development agreements if somebody wants to have it and it's appropriate for their subdivision or for their development, that might be a better route.
Yeah, and I read the doc as well from that, so, yeah, we kind of addressed all the points, important points, so.
And the language that's in there could be used in MDA language, right? Much of that language can be carried over into an MDA, so a lot of the
Yeah,
hard
that's a
work,
good point.
the heavy lift is done.
Yeah,
Yeah, however you actually want to implement it, overlay or the mayor's recommendation MDA, which I think is an ideal way to do it. You look at a project by project specifically. We've got the language ready to go.
So that's, Polly and I went through this and we're thinking that that's the best approach. I think it cleans it up. It doesn't, it's going to be specific for a specific project. It'd be tied to it forever. It is, an MDA is, a recorded document, et cetera. So, so if we decide we want to do it for, the uphill side of X and whatever, we can put it in there and that becomes that. And that way it's not applying to everything else in the area.
That makes a lot of sense, Mayor, because I read through this report and all, and I think that's what we were trying to do anyway, with those restrictions, with the overlay zone. We're trying to apply that kind of thinking anyway. So I'm very much in support of moving to this, continuing with our MDA route and working that way.
So what I would need then is a motion to table this item. I'm sorry, Polly.
Did you open the public hearing on this one? This was also a public hearing.
I didn't, but I can, because it.
Yeah,
we
'cause
don't
it's
have
not-
anything. So yeah, so it is a public hearing, so let me open the public hearing. Thanks for that reminder. Having just heard the discussion, are there any comments from the public around around this particular proposal? Okay, I don't see anything, so I'm going to close public input on this. And then we'd look for a motion. And probably it's okay to do it to a date uncertain,
Yep, you can just do it for date.
because I mean,
insert.
this may not come back at all as an ordinance, right?
Yeah, well, that's how I've usually seen them handled. Because you're not gonna vote it. It's not like you want to have a vote and deny it. You're saying, we're not ready right now, so. It might,
Okay.
if it comes back or in some form or another, it'll get renoticed because we don't have a date certain, so. It kind of achieves the
Okay.
same goal.
Okay. So I'd like a motion to continue a possible adoption of an ordinance around the rental overlay, short-term rental overlay zone to a date uncertain.
I mean, I'm sorry, Mayor, is that what we want to do, or do we want to have the council discuss and then maybe potentially kill it with a voting it down kind of thing? I mean, if date uncertain means, okay,
I'm
well,
I'm repeating Polly's recommendation.
Yeah, I mean. You achieve the same goal. I think it's a lot less work for staff if you don't vote it down, and it just kind of leaves the concept out there. I think it's clear based on your words that it's not coming back for a while. But
Besides that, it could give us the wrong connotation because some of this is what we want to repeat in an MDA.
right,
So somebody read this and said, oh, you voted this down, but now you're including it in your MDA. That could be interpreted as, well, they're really confused over an item.
And if the MDA route didn't work or it just wasn't as clean as we thought, you wanted to bring this back.
Yeah,
If you vote it down, it has to come back substantively different, which
exactly.
is not what you want.
And by the way, there are some incorrections in here that I saw anyway, so why just push it out
Yeah.
and just say to it, yeah, I agree with you. Do you follow the reasoning on that, Chris?
yeah, I did. I'm glad you brought that up, Ralph. Thanks. I'm just trying to figure out the best thing for us. Because I think I know I'm happy to either send it off to a date uncertain. I mean, I'm okay. I'm okay doing that. And I do think there were some provisions in the
Correct.
in the report, because I actually honestly didn't read the ordinance. It came in too late, but I didn't read it. But I think there are some things in here we would want to consider, like you said, in an MDA. In a future MDA.
So if that answers your question, then again, I'm looking for a motion to table or not table, but to
To a date uncertain.
continue the item for date
yeah.
uncertain.
I'll move there.
Thank you, Ralph.
I'll second. That's Carol.
Who was that?
Carol,
Thank you, Carol. Bob,
Yes.
Sherry,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes,
and Ralph.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, we're jumping back into the agenda item. So the next one up is the presentation to Hideout Council and discussion of the rezone for Bloom in Hideout. Just to be clear, this is, the planning commission is not finished with this. There's work to be done, but what the Bloom team was looking for was to sort of get you all dipped in what they're thinking about and get some preliminary feedback. There's not a vote to approve the project. There's nothing here other than discussion questions if you have that for the Bloom team. I think they're here with us tonight. And this was where this is basically, Thomas will take us through this, but this is basically where we were going to discuss this back in July when the Bloom team decided to hold off for a little bit and do some more thinking. So it's come back around. The recommendation in the June Planning Commission was an approval by the Planning Commission for this to come to council just for review, concept vision, okay? So that's what's going to happen tonight. We're not voting on it. We're not approving a rezone. We're not doing any of that. We're just getting a sense of it and understanding what would be required for this thing to move forward in the way it's proposed. And with that, I'll get out of the way and leave it to Thomas.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll walk you through this pretty quickly because I think Ryan and Jenny are on and I think they have a pretty detailed presentation. But Mayor, you kind of covered the background information pretty well. So again, this is where they left off in July before they were going to come back and present to the council. Just as again, a reminder, this is it is 112 acre property that we're looking at, but actually, and if you scroll down to the next page, Mayor, I just want to make sure, keep going a little bit further, that everybody understands, we think of the property as 112 acres because that is the entire Salzman property, the property that they're looking to purchase. Right there, Mayor, is perfect. The 40 acre section that contains the existing house, the pond, that is not part of the rezone request by Bloom. That would be that is an independent piece of property. That's a different parcel. So the parcel that they're looking at is the 72 acres that is to the east of there, I guess east, yeah, of that. So what they are proposing is a rezone concept that would include some neighborhood mixed use component for the commercial area down at the bottom, some residential 3, some residential 6, and there was a discussion early on in the process that we might need to look at a residential casita zone. You guys noted that earlier, that was continued. The Planning Commission has that on their potential docket for November, but it may not be necessary because we may be able to utilize the town's existing R6 zone. So they might be looking at neighborhood mixed use, residential 3, residential 6, and then some neighborhood preservation for the open space protected areas in the development. Mayor, you could go to the next page, please. And there again, you'll see outlined the entire 112 acres. Scroll down just a little bit more, Mayor, and you'll see the area that is in question right there. That is the area, the 72 acres. That area to the west of there is the house, the 40-ish acres. That's not part of the application in terms of the rezone. Okay. You scroll down to the next page, Mayor. I won't walk you through the ERUs yet, so go past that table. We can circle back to that as a detail. But I did want to, yeah, let's discuss the east parcel. So what is being proposed on these 70-ish acres would be 217 units. You can see there that part of that development includes 30 to 35,000 square feet of neighborhood commercial. On top of some of the neighborhood commercial would be some multi-unit housing. So it would give it a kind of a Main Street appearance, if you will. There's a boutique hotel component with 60 units with lockout units. So it would be 120 keys. The cabins, which were previously noted as casitas, total 53, 84 townhomes, and 12 single-family lots. Again, the house portion not part of the application. If you scroll down just a little more there, yeah, that's not part of this application. If you scroll down to the next page, Mayor, maybe this is where I will leave it with Ryan and Jenny. This is the concept plan. I think you'll see this in a little more detail and they can kind of zoom in and show you what is being proposed. But again, kind of at the bottom of that is SR 248, the bottom of that image. The commercial would be located primarily at the bottom. You would go up that main road. That main road is the road that has been cut into service the Golden Eagle emergency ingress egress. And so that would be the primary road. Of course, it would be finished, and that would be the spine road through this development. Again, I'll let Ryan and Jenny walk you through some of the details. You scroll down to the next map, Mayor. This is a rough layout of what we think the zoning might look like. Again, the property to the east is the house, that's mountain zoning. And then you can see there's some single family zoning. The green is the preservation zone. Then you've got right below it and to the right, that whole area could be the R6. And then that kind of reddish at the bottom would be the NMU neighborhood mixed use for the commercial development. I think I will turn it over now to Ryan and Jenny because they may walk through some of the phasing. They may walk through some of the issues that the Planning Commission had discussed and wanted to work out when it was before them in June. So why don't I turn it over to them, and then if I need to circle back, I can. If you have if you have specific questions, I can answer them as well.
So Jenny and Ryan, do you guys need to present, or do you want me to
Yeah,
move
that
stuff
would be
around for you?
That would be great if we can
All right.
present. I'm just gonna share.
Sure. I'm gonna just I'll drop out of sharing and let you share.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. Can you see my screen right now, Mayor?
We can. Yeah, we
Okay,
can.
awesome. So I'm Jenny, this is Ryan. We're going to presume that you don't know anything about this, but we do want to be efficient on time. So we'll probably present very high level for 5 minutes. And then our goal is to get really high level feedback. We have worked with brilliant people in this community. The Planning Commission, we're going into our 6th Planning Commission feedback. So this has a lot of touch from people in the community. We've also done Zoom calls with the community. We've hosted happy hours. So it has a lot of feedback in it already. And really our goal of coming here was we haven't touched base with anyone on the town council. You haven't heard about it. You haven't seen us. And so just more a touch base on you guys are crazy, we hate it, or know that we're intrigued, we're excited to see you for the official next step on this when we get there. So that's sort of our goal tonight. So first off, I just want to introduce Ryan and myself. We are big believers in Hideout. We are developers, but we feel like we are part of the Hideout community. We've owned a total of around 8 lots. We're very invested in Hideout. We build in Hideout because we really believe that it's amazing. We've been in this community how long? So over 20 years.
3 years.
In Park City, all of Ryan's 3 kids have gone through the school district. I have 2 kids going through now. So we're big believers in this area. I guess what we really want to say is we're locals. We also are real estate agents. We've done over 50 transactions in Hideout. So we have a lot of clients, friends, relationships with the Hideout community and here and are passionate about this. What we're presenting to you, we want to be a part of. We want to sit in the commercial at the restaurants and know people's names, and we are going to use. So that's the high level. Did you want to say anything else about us?
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. So now we're going to get into the presentation. By the way, I am from Australia. If none of you know me, I do have a little twang, so you don't have to go the whole way through and ask where that is. So I have a little accent too. Okay, so here is the land that we're calling Bloom in Hideout. You can see the Bloom entrance is sort of in the middle here, and Golden Eagle entrance, Tuhei entrance is up further, just so you understand the area we're talking about here. The land is absolutely gorgeous. Through doing some research on well digging and what we have there, we found out that there were volcanic sites 30 million years ago, so we don't need to worry about them being active again, but it's beautiful land that has a lot of amazing energy and marketability in it as well. So this is the other view. Views are just absolutely stunning. So the really exciting portion is as you enter Bloom, we want this to be a community gathering space. Commercial is a big part of this. We are talking about 35,000 square feet of commercial. What that looks like would be 4 buildings, approximately 2 to 3 levels. Right now, the concept we're looking at is having those buildings close to the road because of visibility and how that attracts commercial tenants, because visibility, there's a lot of data on that, increases how many people you get there. We're also going to have a hotel planned in this area of the commercial zoning, and then community spaces as well. We definitely want to have a restaurant, if not 2. Example fills would be restaurants like Blind Dog, Hearth and Hill, Midway Mercantile. So these are restaurants that you could go to several times a week if you wanted to. We would like a cafe breakfast type vendor tenant. Example fills of those are 5 Seeds, Harvest, Ritual. And then we feel it's really important to have a market there. We're calling it a 3-day market. So what you need for 3 days of supplies, you can go elsewhere for your big grocery shoppings, but if you need to run in and get eggs or bread or something like that, it would be a market that you see similar in local communities. So that is the vision on the commercial. We also are really excited. We've heard a lot of feedback that commercial is important to the community. And so we have brought on Katie Wilking and Jill Snyder. They're 2 of the top commercial agents in Park City. Katie is actually on this call and happy to answer any questions that any of you have. Is a big believer in this project. She's walked the site, and we're really excited to have her on our team for this too. And Jill as well. The Commercial Village Vision Board, if you look at the bottom left, you can sort of see those 4 buildings there that might go down another level. And then we really feel like a rooftop restaurant would be amazing with that. So on the right, you sort of see a vision cast of that. We would like to name the buildings. So Hideout is so special because of the land, the view, the lifestyle. We have the most beautiful views, but something that a lot of people don't know is the beautiful night skies. The stars in Hideout could be the best star viewing in the world. So really working with the land, we feel like a theme of earth as you enter. That's where you have your market, water, air, and then fire being the last building. So everything stays around this theme of really promoting what Hideout is to us and that we love being there every day. Here's more on the Commercial Village Vision Board. We have traveled around the world to do research on this and just really want it to feel like a community gathering space. And then on top of that, having community areas on this development, from trails that are strategically built to get people from Hideout, from Golden Eagle, from Tuhei to this commercial hub. And also there is a beautiful hill in the middle of this property, which would be the most valuable land to anyone to live or stand on. We want to make that natural preserve space for the community. So you can go up, or you could have a picnic up there, or you could host events up there, like outdoor weddings and outdoor market. We also feel like a small venue to host potential concerts or community events. And by small, we're talking 300 to 500 seats. Think of more like a park-like area. We call it an amphitheater, but it's more just community gathering as well. So having some spaces to be able to do things and have themes like an Easter egg hunt, or bring the community together over Christmas for something. Back in Australia, when I was growing up, we had Teddy Bears picnic on Teddy Bears Day, and everyone brought a teddy bear. So just coming up with creative ways the community could come together as well. And then this is the high level concept. So Ryan wants me to make it larger, but I might. Okay, that's good. Great. So you can see as you enter on the bottom, that's where the commercial hub is, all the way over to the left with the hotel. Right now we have the amphitheater on the end of that, but it could potentially be in between the hotel and the commercial. So it's what is strategically best as we work with this land. Behind that, you have the probably highest density living, which is the townhomes, and they are on the back side of this knob in the middle. So it mitigates what Golden Eagle will be looking at. So we have most of the density on a side that doesn't impact the community that have bought these very nice lots that are looking for their views. At the top back, you see the single family lots. And so Golden Eagle is single family lots. It blends in, it'll seamlessly go into those lots and it'll look much part of the community. There's a nature preserve, the beautiful valley here. We just felt like we should keep open space. And then you see the lookout. On the right-hand side, I'm going to decrease it a bit because I don't know if people can see that. And when I say right-hand side, there's the easement access road that's cut in all the way through the middle. So on the right-hand side, which we're going to be asking for zone R6, the bottom portion continues the townhomes here, which is the ecosystem to fuel the commercial. And then there are these cabins. So if you think of promontory cabins, Victory Ranch cabins, that sort of concept, it's where people can come and stay and enjoy a family experience, but feel like they're not right next to each other. So I'm just going to show you some of those visions so you see what we're talking about. The townhomes, we would like to be 2 together. We don't want to go more than that. We'd love to have rooftop decks to look at the night sky and look at the beautiful views, and this just be a real great destination for people, lots of windows as well. The single family home, here's a vision board of what we hope to have an essence of too. Very luxuries, fitting in with what people build in Golden Eagle, so it all matches. Then here's the zoning plan. As you can see, you enter on the bottom, and so you sort of have the busy at the bottom with the commercial. The next busiest as you go up the road, but once you pass about 1/3 of the road, it's very quiet. You've got just 12 single family homes here, and then you have a very nice entrance into the cabins as well. So they can sort of be a quiet place for people to enjoy lifestyle too. The strategy here is we are calling it a resort community. So we just had that talk about short-term rentals. We as developers would be asking for this to be a resort community. Now, the strategy behind that is the impact it can make economically to the town. Resort community, we're going to be talking about the financial impact here. These are approximate numbers. Where you're getting sales tax and you're also getting the tax from people being transient and living in short-term rentals, will approximately be around $857,000 a year once this is fully built out to the city. Now, just educating you on resort community versus residential community. Everything in Hideout right now is a residential community. The past developers that pitched was a residential community. That means people are buying the houses to live in, and there's not short-term rentals on anything there. A resort community gives options for people to stay in different levels, whether it's a 400 square foot hotel room, a townhome, or a home. There is hundreds of lots being built in Hideout, and there is a need for people to come and watch their builds and come and stay in short term as they manage their builds. So we could capitalize on that as a town by having an area like this where they could stay in the same house over their build, which is taking 2 years, and they could be actually part of their community while they're watching their build. BlackRock is building BlackRock Estates, and they've got around 400 lots going in just by Tuhey. They're going to have a lot of people who will want to come and stay and watch their builds. Tuhey has several hundred lots that have people wanting to come and stay. So Hideout could benefit from these people that are actually going to be part of the community in the next 3 to 5 years by having a resort community right there for them to do that. Also, we've met with Black Rock Hotel, and they are building a 700-person conference venue and are very excited to have a partner up the road that could house CEO level all the way through to their floor staff. And they're going to need that help and would love to partner with a development like us. So the town could benefit off that by offering a place like that too. So there are sort of some bullet points. And then I'll just end back on this. You can see it's a total of 217 units, 60 of those being in the boutique hotel. So 157 would be the other density there. Do you have anything you want to say? Because I feel like I just spoke the whole time.
No, we worked on that together. So I echo everything Jenny said, but we just love to hear initial feedback, thoughts, opinions, any feedback. And hopefully our mic is
Council,
on.
if you've got questions or comments for these guys, by all means, now is the time to go in. So Chris, go ahead. Your hand went up first. So
Thank you. I had trouble getting my mouse to work. Okay. Hey, Brian and Jenny, it's good to meet you and see you. When you're talking about the commercial aspect and the boutique hotel area, how many employees do you estimate would be needed, you know, if that were built out and you did get, for example, the restaurants and the hotel, et cetera? What kind of staffing is required to operate those places, you know, in your estimate, if it were to be built out, you know, optimistically?
Yeah, we have an interested hotel party that is, they told us when we were working on the parking and everything, they'd have about 5 to 10 employees a day there, depending on cleaning crews and things like that. As far as the restaurants and the other commercial, should I bring on Katie for this, or?
You can just ballpark it, because I mean, I'm leading you into a question about.
Yeah.
No, I would
where
say
is that?
probably
Where,
30.
you know, do you have any provisions about where those staff members would live?
Yeah, so we don't have, you know, employee housing is definitely an issue countywide, citywide, Wasatch and Summit County. The amount of land that's here, the price of the land, the topography of the land, employee housing isn't something that we've looked at tackling. We feel like there are better places to tackle that issue than on this land. Commercial is probably the biggest issue as far as tax revenue and sustainability, hotel, things like that. So that's what we really look to tackle. We also
knowing what other things are going in, like all that whole minded development, there also have a whole bunch of people that
we
have to work.
have on our plan, we have a transit stop. So this land is very expensive land. And so there's probably 6 key things that the city needs, employee housing being one of them, right? But we are trying to solve probably 2 or 3 of the city's problems with this land versus we can't solve all 6. So it's bringing income to the city, bringing a place and commercial to the city, offering trails and places for people to get outside. If we did all 6, it would just be hard to succeed at any. We are passionate about employee housing. We've even looked at, okay, is there a way to buy some land out in Camas that's cheaper? And we really felt passionate about the transit stop being in here, and we have a design where it can loop in through the commercial, loop back out as well. So in this plan, there's not employee housing, but there.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be in this plan, but I'm just trying to gauge what your thoughts are. I mean, in order for a commercial area to be successful, you have to have businesses that want to be there, and those businesses have to find employees. I mean, I can tell you in so many of the things that I'm dealing with, you know, like my car repair, for example, which has been it's been out of my possession for more than 2 weeks, and I have to wait another week because there aren't enough people to work, right? So, you know, thinking ahead, I mean, yeah, of course, you've listened to us. We need commercial. We're well, you know, we welcome a hotel. You know, we're looking for that nightly rental, tax income. We are looking for all those things. But I'm just asking you the question, just to see if you had any creative thoughts. Clearly, you know, you are limited in your amount of space here, but I mean, how are we going to attract businesses who want to locate here? I mean, are we doing anything to make it less difficult for them, right? Because, you know, restaurants, as much as we want a restaurant, I mean, that's one of the riskiest businesses to start. So many of them fail. And, you know, we would want to set this place up for success. So I just wondered, you know, what your thoughts you had about that. And those are tough questions. And, you know, you can't solve this crisis for the whole region, but we're just trying to prevent, at least I'm thinking, we're trying to prevent making it worse by just continuing to do the same things, which is build all these luxury areas, and yet there's no place for people who work to live.
Yeah, and we understand the difficulties of getting commercial in before there's residents in, but we also stand on this land and the traffic that goes past, the workers that are out there that are looking for a place to grab something for lunch. We really believe in that we can get commercial before it actually sounds viable on a normal plan. And meeting out there with these two commercial real estate agents, they agreed. What they did let us know is we are going to have to give concessions for probably the first 2 years to these commercial vendors, concessions on their rent to come in and be in it with them. We're going to have to team up with these commercial vendors. We do not want a ghost town. That's the worst thing for us and our townhomes and houses we're building behind it. So if you think of commercial as a loss leader, even though if we can make it thriving and work with them to come in, it does help our whole development. So it's you're losing on the front end, but you are winning on the end as well. So
yeah, I'm sure you remember Kimball Junction and how it was a ghost town for a decade or more. And, you know, same thing happened over in Jeremy Ranch. That commercial area was dead. I mean, things have finally filled in, right? But it took a long time. And those were in relatively well-populated areas that, you know, more populated than we are at this time. So, you know,
we feel like
go ahead.
Yeah, we feel like it's if we can make it a destination. So I don't know if any of you have gone out to Woodland Vista Company. I've tried, and it's you have to get reservations the moment they reach it. This is a drive out to nowhere. So that's why we feel less commercial is best. We're actually going to start with around 18,000 square feet first, get that full and thriving, and then bring in the next 17,000 square feet. And really, the ecosystem is really important. If it's one restaurant to start, one market, one cafe, and then they're all helping bring out people, what is the draw? What is the destination? Why are people driving out to this? So we're being very selective. We would rather low rent. I don't want to say no rent, right? This is a public meeting for people, but we would rather help team up with the right person than get full rent in the first year from a non-destination boring type vendor. And so that's sort of the strategy that we're looking at, is we actually think this is very, very important, this heartbeat of this community.
So making it a destination, I mean, what would people come here for? You know, is there something they can get besides the gorgeous view, right? And is there something they can get here that they can't get elsewhere? And not just proximity to the resorts, because there are going to be a lot of hotels over, you know, in the MIDA project area.
Right.
So what is it? What's the vision? What's going to be the draw? Do you have any thoughts on that? Why this would succeed and attract, people who want to be here either short-term or long-term in this development.
Yeah, and Katie is texting me, let me talk. So she is one of the commercial realtors on the team. So Katie, I don't know if you can unmute.
I'm here. And Chris, I really appreciate all of your comments as well, because they are concerns to think of. But one of my favorite parts about working with Jenny and Ryan so far is that they are some of the first developers in a long time that have brought up the point of this being a partnership between tenants and developer. And we see time and time again, commercial fail, as you mentioned at the start of your comments. And a huge reason why I see that, whether it be Main Street in Park City or industrial in Heber, all across the Wasatch Back, is because of the rents that people have to pay coming in, and they don't have time to develop their business. And I think Jenny and Ryan, their goal here, and I'm only speaking to the commercial, but is to have qualified tenants that can come in, but that can keep a character and a community that has gotten lost in some of the other cities on the Wasatch Back. And by starting out light with these people, I'd say definitely not free rent, but low rent. You have some costs to cover, but by looking at it as a partnership and helping these businesses grow together, even if they're established somewhere else, I think is what will create the success here, and not have a ghost town, and have amenities that will allow people to stop here and spend their money here instead of having to go to Heber or Park City and spend their money there.
Chris, I don't know if you remember, but I think it was the last meeting, we talked about getting and got approval to put out an RFI for the state park entrance, the land we have there. And Jan's gotten some great responses, and we're very excited about it. And I see that as, another piece of the puzzle of what makes this potentially a destination, is as we start to create the services that support the state park usage, as well as, the neighborhood commercial that we're all desperate for. I mean, driving to Black Rock is about as far as I'd like to go on some nights. But I'm tired of their menu and the choices, so I'd like to see some other things. I think we all would. So I think, we also have the plot of land that we talked about earlier for the fire station. One of the concepts for that is some affordable housing on the backside of that as we go up the hill. Workforce type housing behind the commercial district there. It's not the commercial, but the municipal space there. So that's, we haven't gotten that far yet, but that's a place that we could do that and add to our housing over time. So, it may all this stuff may come together as bringing us, plus we'll have the municipal center, close to the emergency services, that's attractive to people as well. Of course, if you're living above the fire station, it may not be so attractive, but hopefully the alarms don't go off all night. But yeah, so I think, this could be part of the bigger picture of things we're doing in Hideout to bring some commercial and relevance to us and grow us from more than just a bedroom community. Just a thought.
Some of our affordable housing, some of the folks that already live there could decide that this might be a really, they could walk over for this job as opposed to driving, where they have to drive, so to speak. So we may have some actual folks, and we may think, if you're talking about half the commercial coming in, and I don't know if you looked at that number. I know we've looked at those kinds of things, Thomas, before. I'm looking at Thomas over here in the room, that, if they build half and, they give some reasonable rental price, and it could be an attraction to local people who already live in affordable housing. And so we may be able to actually attract them away from some current things that they might be doing. So anyway, food for thought. Yeah.
Yeah, yes.
I just want to say a quick thing. I have known Jenny and Ryan for a while. We worked together when I first started here in real estate, and Jenny's at the same time, and they're good people, and I like the new plan they've come up with, and I'm curious to see more about it.
Thanks, Sherry.
Yeah, thank you. And Katie, thank you. And
Chris, thank you.
Chris, thank you. So a little bit to your point, Chris, we would like to keep the people, let's just say on the east side of Highway 40 on the east side, so that you don't have to drive into Park City. You don't have to drive to Dan, I call it Dan's, I guess it's called Mark. I don't even know. I've been here a long time. So you don't have to go in there, so that you don't have to, right, go grab a coffee, go grab breakfast, that you stay here. But then also, and this is our dream, is to have a rooftop restaurant there, so that you can enjoy the views, the scenery, everything that, you know, the view has to offer, and the location. And why we're here is because it's such a beautiful lifestyle location. So not only keep the people on this side of 40 here, but also draw people from Park City who don't want to go to Main Street and don't want to go to the same restaurants and same locations. And so it really is a twofold thing that we look at, is a little walkable village with 4 kind of main buildings where you can service a lot of different needs that we all have. And so that will be the draw, is kind of twofold.
Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, hey, one of the hidden, well, it's not a hidden gem anymore, but you know, like a place like Back 40 in Heber, that place is packed all the time, and it's just outside of town, right? Or maybe it's inside the city limits now, but you know, it was nothing. It really came on its own. It's been a real good addition, you know, a place for people to go. My question, and so that's why I think I was thinking of that when you were mentioning, yeah, you know, people driving on the highway, this would be a place they'd want to stop. They might actually drive out to, et cetera. But then I worry about the, you know, the amount of space. So, you know, you mentioned the Dan's. I mean, how big, what's the square footage on that particular grocery store? And it's more than a 3-day supply place, or can be. You know, you can get, maybe that's what people tend to do there, but you know, sometimes I do my shopping for the week there. You know, when I don't feel like going to Smith's or any place else. So, you know, how much square footage is there? You've mentioned a lot of things, you know, restaurants, rooftop restaurant, coffee shop, I don't know, you know, grocery store, you know, these are all things we want and need, but I mean, can you fit all that in only 30,000?
So just, I'm going to go to Katie because she knows more of the data, but just to give you high level, if each building is, let's say 8,000 square feet, let's say the lower level is 5,000 square feet, most tenants, let's say a 1,500 square foot floor print is good for most tenants. You can cut that in half and have, let's say, a little ice cream store, a cookie place or something for $750, a boutique meat place. So if in 5,000 square feet, you could have 3-ish 1,500 square feet, or you could have 1 3,000 and 1 1,500. So I think on the bottom floor, a market would be 3,000.
Yeah, but wait, but like the Trader Joe's is 12,000, right? I think we established that.
Yeah, we're not looking at a Trader Joe's. This is a 3-day corner market for eggs,
okay.
like that.
So it'd be
Yeah.
across, if you're familiar with, and we need to let Katie.
Valley. We
Go
can
ahead.
let Katie.
This is-
But even bigger
This
than
is
the
Deer Valley Cafe.
Okay,
Yeah.
how big is that?
Maybe even a little bit bigger, like, you know, Liberty
some-
Heights Market in Salt Lake,
Pretty
or
small.
Market, kind of in between those two, you know, where you're talking 3,000 to 4,000 square feet. So Katie, if you want to jump in.
I concur with everything you're saying, and you know, kind of the vision more so behind this is if you were cooking breakfast for the family on Sunday and you forgot milk and you were making French toast and you didn't want to drive to town, you could stop by or on your way home from work. And you're correct, Trader Joe's are typically between 8,000 and 12,000 square feet, but this is not intended necessarily for your you know, your big thing of laundry soap or something like that. It's for the quick grab and go to fill the needs that we all have that come up that don't need you to drive all the way to the store. So it will have a little bit of everything, but it definitely won't fit your grocery shopping needs. But typically somewhere around 3,000 to 4,000 square feet should be adequate.
In discussions I had with these guys earlier, the thought, Chris, was, when people coming into for the nightly rental type stuff in the cabins, for example, then, if you're showing up and you just want to, you just want to grab some stuff for the family, so there'll be, frozen pizza or whatever, that kind of thing. People coming in, those things turn over every few days or whatever. People will want to have some stuff. So, like I'm thinking, like I say, more like a Deer Valley Cafe. It has some food items you can pick up. You can stock your little cabin with some stuff, whatever. Plus, as Katie was saying, as opposed to a market, because that's going to come at a different place in the future.
All right, thanks. I'm just trying to picture it.
So think of it as sort of an oversized quick shop, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't go into those places myself personally. Normally.
Yeah, well, I know.
People who are
but,
price conscious don't go to the smaller places. Usually they'll go to the bigger markets because, you'll get your
but
curbside
again,
Walmart
as
order
Katie
because
was
it's
saying-
cheaper there. But,
Yeah, but if you just eat two things on the way home, or if you're a visitor and you're just grabbing something for the night. So, I mean, those kinds of markets do okay. I mean, I don't go to the Deer Valley Cafe to shop regularly either, but, but I do have, I will eat there. And we will occasionally pick something up there, and people when my family stays up at the Deer Valley area, they pick up stuff for their unit there, et cetera.
yeah. So if this is a thinking of this as a resort area, are these all, are you thinking these are all going to be nightly rentals, like this whole community?
Yeah, so it's a resort ecosystem. So for example, if there is a big conference happening, CEOs can rent out the houses. Their VP level could do the cabins. They could put, their normal employees in townhomes, and maybe the floor people or whatever could stay in the hotel. So it's an ecosystem of potential different types of
Price points.
price
Is it-
points. And
Yeah. Is it going to be managed and controlled if you're thinking that? Because I mean, you just have like a neighborhood of a bunch of nightly rentals. If it's not under certain control, like you mentioned it being a resort, is it going to be like a resort where there's resort rules and management and I'm thinking of some of those vacation resorts you can go to with the big hotel chains. Is that what you're thinking?
yeah, so it's
as
going to
far-
be HOA controlled. The hotel obviously would be a hotel flag that would be doing that. The cabins could be all one resort owner. They could be with the HOA, it would need to be a developer approved, which could be one property management for all of them. So there's lots of options there to keep it
nice and consistent, right?
right.
Not like each property is kind of its own Wild West, where whatever the property owner is doing as far as nightly rentals and like the kind of people that they're attracting for their property and stuff, they're all on their own. I mean, are you thinking of it more as a unified concept? With as I'm trying to describe, but I really don't have the right words for it. But hopefully, you know what I mean about having more control over, keeping it. If it's going to be a resort concept, making it feel like a resort, not just like a bunch of separate properties people own and just happen to rent out to make some money.
Yeah. So we feel like we can control that with the build design as we go. We feel that there's an underserved market, which is people that own homes, let's call it $3 to $12 million across the country. And they want to come to Park City and they want to buy a townhome, but they don't want to buy a tract townhome. They want to buy something with standard finishes that are Wolf, Sub-Zero, wood floors, beautiful cabinets, something they would see in a metropolitan area. And so those are the clients that we're marketing to on the townhomes. So our townhomes will probably be on the higher end of what's in townhome and in Hideout right now, 2 million plus. And so that's what we're going to market to on that. That's our vision for that, with not only the location, the views, and everything that offers. And then that, like Jenny said, the 53 cabins could very well be a individual big flag type of developer who comes in and wants high end. You know, you go to most of these resorts, Montage has it, in different places all over the country have high end luxury houses, small houses where you can stay. And that's what we envision with this type of area. So very much not a Airbnb where you're going to throw your college graduation weekend party in Park City. That's not what we see here.
I guess, Chris, in
Yes.
my mind, I see it a bit like Sundance, where there are Sundance operated properties on their site, and there are also private homes that are managed by a single management company mixed in between there. But so it looks like you're in Sundance, but they're actually managed by a separate property unit, although it's all inside the Sundance, space. So I could see something like that where it would hang together pretty well. Hopefully not all at Sundance prices, but
I haven't been to Sundance yet. I haven't made the trip, right?
it's
I
stunning.
keep wanting to go.
Absolutely stunning. It's
Yeah, I
stunning.
hear it's amazing. So, oh yeah, that's
really-
helpful. So, Jenny and Ryan, those are kind of my thoughts. Yes, I know we need commercial. I know we need nightly rentals. Yes, we have to do that. But how do we keep it? How do we make it a real destination? People want to come and then make it a success. I mean, because I do worry about everything is so ridiculously priced here anymore. I mean, I personally would not be able to live here had I not moved here and, come to my house when I did. If I was building now, I would be living in Hideout.
That's
I don't know
true
where
for-
I'd be.
Yeah, that's true for most people. So totally understand that point.
And
Yeah.
that's where the commercial is really important. We're not thinking of.
We didn't pick out the most expensive restaurants in Park City, right? On purpose.
Like, we're not thinking of a river horse there, right? We want people to
Well,
be able to come there for 2 or 3 nights a week and not go broke, or
yeah. Well, all the restaurants, I agree. I mean, I only want to go to the expensive ones a few times a year, right? For special
If your
occasions,
friends
not
wanna go.
every Saturday night, but, the restaurants you mentioned, the thing they all have in common is they're all in, populated areas. They're not out here down a road that, people, you still have to tell them where Hideout is because they don't know where it is.
and
And-
we use those. I would say Back 40 is another one I'd add on there. So, I mean, you said some great ones.
Well, Back 40, I love Back 40.
Let me go to your point, Chris, because it's a very valuable point. Back 40 forever was dead. Kimball Junction, where Best Buy is for 10 years plus, was dead. Nick's Greek Cafe was dead, where Five Seeds is, right? So it really comes down to the quality of what you're going to put in there as tenants. And that's where Jenny and I are saying we're very sensitive to that. Rather than getting somebody that's a run of the mill that will pay the rent, okay, we want somebody that's very unique or that's, well established, that we know, that people know, as a reason that people will stop there. So that is the quality or the uniqueness or the draw or the setting or the rooftop or whatever it is. We're very keen on that. And that's what we feel will be the X factor to make this successful.
Yeah, I'm just curious how you're going to get those people, right? Because after a while, I mean, I think it was just the wrong timing for Kimball Junction. They built all that stuff and it was just too much too soon.
I'm going to let Katie talk though,
Yeah,
because
go ahead.
that developer is very much the same. This is what Katie's talking about. I know that developer. They're not going to give you $1 of concession. Not $1. And so this is where we're working with Katie's like, if you guys just do that, trust me, I can fill this up. So I'll let you go, Katie.
Sure. I think we briefly touched on this earlier, but by being able to plan ahead and be flexible with the tenants and what the rent is that you're going to charge, how you're going to help with build out, what it will be, is that's how you can create the partnership with them and help them be successful, which will in turn help all of that be successful, instead of charging the highest dollar for what you can get and making it very hard for even established tenants to start. I think that's what pulls a lot of people away from places like Kimball Junction, or Main Street, Park City, is it is just astronomically expensive that we're losing some of the character. And I think that's the opposite goal here, is to be able to make it affordable for the people that have these new fun and brilliant ideas, and they want to help create the community here through their commercial concept. And so it will help keep the whole ecosystem going.
And Katie, you've been doing this over 12 years and one of the top leading commercial people. And I know your time is valuable. And I'm asking you this question. I think I know the answer, but I might not. You feel confident you can go to market with this with the right partnership from us and get some quality tenants?
I feel 100% confident. And we handle most of the market here, not all. There are some other, good agents here, but from a commercial standpoint, we see what works, what doesn't work, who wants to be here, here as in the Wasatch Back, and why they can, why they can't, what's successful and what isn't. So we have a lot of data and experience to fall back on to say that. And that's why I'm so excited about this one.
So I think, thanks, Katie, thanks, Jenny and Ryan. I mean, we spent a good 20
That was supposed to be
plus
5
minutes on
minutes.
this.
Well, we're good.
And so, Sherry's waiting, Chris is waiting, any of the other council members want to make a comment? Obviously, this is not a go, no go at this point. This is, these guys are working with the planning commission. There's a lot of steps left to go. But, if it can work, I kind of like it. So, that's my opinion, but Chris brings up some great points, and there's some more things for us to think about. But, I think we're working, one of the things we're working on with Jenny and Ryan is not just the positives, but also the risks, and understanding those and thinking about how do we mitigate those risks. So one of the ones was the rental pricing, and they've already talked about that. So there's a whole series of these that we're working on. Ralph, I know you've been involved in this for a while. Carol, I see your hand up, so go ahead.
I think my biggest concern is all your competition, that you're dealing with everything new that's going in the Mayflower section of Deer Valley. And that's going to be a lot of competition for you. And then I'm familiar with the area in Oakley that they're developing, and there's just a lot of commercial going in out there with Steve Smith and his concept of getting an Oakley Town Center. I just think I'm just worried about the timing and about the fact that you have so much competition. And is our area going to support what you're trying to do? So that's my concern.
Thank you.
I'll
Thanks,
add a
Carol.
couple, Mayor.
Yeah.
Because I have been looking at this, through the lens of the EDC for a while, and the presentation, looking at the bigger picture. So I think all the comments are valid, and there's always going to be risks with anything. We don't have any commercials, so this concept does fit into the character of what we're trying to create without a huge amount of density. The only comparative proposal was twice this density. And it's maybe 3 times. I'm looking at Glennis over here, because I know that's kind of true. Not that that was a bad proposal either, because density doesn't mean it's bad per se. in my opinion, anyway. I actually, I'll go radical here a bit and say, maybe there should be a slightly larger hotel. Maybe because, to be very honest with you, that will, if you can fill the hotel and you can market this correctly, because a lot of what we're talking about is marketing here. And the marketing has to come from both the developer, and the marketers that are part of that, like, I think Katie is one of your main people there. But also from the town. We have to, we haven't done any commercial marketing, if you think about it. So, we need to cooperate in that sense. And that's what, I know that's the next topic, as to what the EDC does for any town, so they help promote that. But overall, I'd say it was a nice mix. It fits into the town. And if we do something across the street, on the other side in our triangle, you want those things to be complementary and synergistic in their impact on the town. And so we have an opportunity in both of these because they're coming into view right now, that we should be thinking about the synergies, whether you can do, I'm looking over at Jan now, because we've been talking about the PIDs, the MIDA effect, certainly across the street. So can we, as a town, help coalesce this, create that ambiance, and co-market around this? So that's the theme. And I think, in terms of nightly rentals, everything I've read about our national trends is that the hotels are still drawing, and that was my point about, could we even increase that? Because the hotels right now are drawing, greater occupancy rates than the, Airbnb types of rentals. So a nice balance there, so to speak. So that's the trend right now in the States. And then my third thought here is, to your point, can we support this? I don't know, there's always risks, but we can see where Tuve is going. Everything is being ripped up, some big homes. This will have some new homes. We have another, how many more doors come that potential? 1,600. So roughly, give or take a couple hundred. So there's 1,600. There's a phasing plan here as well. So don't do everything at once. And I think they're phasing it through, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jenny and Ryan, through 30 or 32. So there's a horizon, there's a building horizon. So, a lot of risk, but there's also a lot of potential. And if we don't do something with some kind of vision here, we'll probably not have, if we don't do something, then we're just gonna have a reputation of nothing's gonna happen in this town, and I think as long as it fits into our character, this could be a good thing. So, and they're working with us. That's my, I'll finish off there. I hit like 3 points.
Thanks, Ralph. We really do need to get on with the agenda. So again, this is a look-see. You guys got some feedback.
That was
Hopefully,
Thank you.
things to think about. And our next step is to, you heard a lot of the risk issues tonight. So let's get those captured and start talking about how do we de-risk. So when you come back with the next steps, we can start to address some of the concerns raised. I think they're all valid. I think there are ways to de-risk it, and we'll keep it moving.
Thank you.
We appreciate you all so much for this time. It's super helpful. We can't wait to see you again.
Okay, thanks, Katie, for joining. Appreciate it very much. Okay, I'm gonna take control back and go back to the agenda. I think I am. Hopefully I'm doing that. So we're gonna go on to discussion of the roles, requirements, responsibility of the EDC. We're getting, we're doing okay, because after that, we get to the quick report. So let's see if we can spend some time on this. I don't know who's presenting, but
Well, I was the one who put a lot of this together. We had, so it's a good segue because this really builds upon what we're just talking about here to a large extent. And so the Economic Development Committee had a little bit of a presentation two or three meetings ago from Craig Duper, who was on the committee at that time, and Scott Davis. Neither one are on the committee any longer. Craig kind of just wanted to, didn't see us progressing fast enough. I'll just be totally transparent here. Terrific guy. I wish he was still on. Scott may be, and may actually be bidding or providing, inputting on the RFI. So that would be a bit of a conflict of interest, even if he was on the committee. So part of this, call it short, very short document, was to coalesce the thinking around what an EDC does. There's not any, rocket science to this stuff. And for the most part, those key points are in here. One of the other thoughts, so the second paragraph is about the mission or vision of what that is. Basically, a business-friendly community that welcomes thoughtful, reasonable, responsible commercial development and provides diversity and some amenities. And that we create some ideas and that we work in a proactive way, both within the town and with developers like this, so that we're coming out with a positive game. And I think we're going to see potentially, smaller things and bigger things as we go through. So this 2 or 3 pages, and there's another gentleman on the committee. He's active, JD Cronin. I don't think he's on tonight. If he is, hey JD, love you to jump in. And then Katie Shepley. So it's been us and Jan and myself. So, we've been meeting every Monday. We haven't been delivering a lot of reports because some of this information or some of what we've done could be construed as sensitive, particularly for the developer who may not want every piece of information coming out early. So the whole idea behind these 3 pages is to form a foundation or structure upon which we could further recruit the right people on the EDC who would focus on the business impacts, more of the financials, as opposed to, I spent 3 years on the planning board and a number of years in the previous town, which addressed land use, not so much of the financial. So we need a balance. Every good town that I've seen or been involved with, they have some kind of economic development committee. So this is an attempt at forming some basics and some parameters around which the roles and responsibilities of the individuals. And so all that's included there. And then we're also thinking at this point that we actually, for developers that are kind of new to the town, may not have done a lot of commercial, that we would actually have a kind of a role for a relationship manager and like a negotiator. Not so much a negotiator in the sense of doing the negotiations on the development, but more or less providing some guidance for how the processes can be accelerated, because we have that well defined, but not every developer can wait a year or 2 out. So, and we could lose that developer. And I think we've seen where we have lost a developer like that. So the purpose of the EDC is also to help accelerate the process where it's legally responsible as well as economically responsible. So that's what we're trying to do and to form a better game plan. it's in the packet. I don't know if anyone has any comments. But this is a starting point for, how we can, more, aptly, address our needs in the area of commercial and business. And capture that in a good way for our community. Any questions?
Ralph, I welcome this effort and I appreciate the work you've put into this. I think it helps a lot to clarify, what is and isn't, they're not the planning commission. They're not the town council. They're working to, as Ralph said, promote the town and try and find us partners who help us, meet the goals that Ralph stated at the beginning. So, I think it's a great document. I think, a couple thoughts. One is, I think we need to be clear, Ralph, that this, at the moment, this is not a remunerated role. We don't have the funds to pay people to do this. So I think it's, there needs to be clear somewhere that, they're doing it because they care about Hideout. I mean, as you said, they may live here and want to, help the community. And two, that there is a vetting process, and not everybody who expresses an interest may be chosen.
Yeah, those are both good. I think we didn't address the first part. I just assumed that from a committee standpoint, none of us are getting paid. I've been doing this for the town between planning board and this. I've never taken anything. I know Craig and Scott, I don't think took anything. I mean, I don't know, because you can't submit the $50 per meeting or something like that. But I think that only applies to the town council and planning commission.
That's
So
correct.
yeah, this is
Just the
definitely-
town council.
Just the
Doesn't
town
even
council,
apply to the
Ralph.
planning commission.
Oh, well, there you go. And I don't know who's taken, I know I haven't ever submitted anything. And I think our town is probably operated on that principle. The committee, I would just say two things to that. It's volunteer, just like the rest of the committees. And two, the only difference here, and I did include this in the doc, and I didn't address it, but, and I asked everyone to sign a conflict of interest, because I think if there's
Right.
any committee that this committee is dealing potentially with sensitive information on both sides, they could be, so far we haven't had any real estate developers, so to speak, who volunteered for the committee. Very, very knowledgeable people about bonds, finances and that kind of thing. So that's the kind of folks we're trying to attract. And people, if you do have a conflict of interest, just like on town council, you got to recuse yourself. So I asked Scott personally, I said, well, if you want to continue with our committee, this is an example, Scott Davis, that's fine. But if you're also going to submit an RFI, you're going to have to recuse yourself or not be on the committee at all. So he hasn't signed, I don't think, the COI. Only the only people have, I believe, is Katie now and GD. Is that correct, Felicia?
Did you get Katie's? She intends to sign it, but she's got an emergency.
Yeah, okay. So I know she intended, because she said she
Mhm,
would, but so that, I think that's an important point, Mayor. And that this particular committee has to be kind of free of conflicts of interest. And so that's fundamental to anyone involved with any negotiations, discussions, review of proposal.
Hey, Ralph, who's going to vet the people that have interest in this committee? When you do volunteer work, right, or you're looking for volunteers, sometimes any warm body will do, and depending what it is. But you're saying that for this economic development committee, you're looking for a specific type of person has the conflicts of interest that they may have, they either disclose or and they sign some kind of agreement that you're talking about, that I haven't seen, but is that what you're trying to reform this committee, add some, maybe some people have left or been dismissed, and then you're trying to rebuild it? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, we have myself, I would say, and you know, I may not want to be involved in everything. And a lot of the, say, negotiation roles should be done by volunteers who have a background. So if you look in the appendix, the last kind of page and a half, we clearly laid out qualifications of the individuals. So combined with that and the conflict of interest, we're really looking at people. So a couple of things to that point. We need people who understand bonding and financing, because clearly if we're going to do anything for the town in the future, we may have to understand how those things are distributed, what the financial effects are. And so we actually have a couple of people, both Craig, I think Scott taught at USC, I'm more on the marketing side. So a marketing person, a finance person, somebody who understands a little bit about development, but is not a developer, so to speak. So that is the profile of the committee. And at first, Jan and I had a tough time getting people to come out to even think about volunteering, like we're all doing. And I think less so now. I think there's probably more people we can actually go to who have some experience. For one, we have more people moving down. A lot of them have experience in the areas I just mentioned. JD's done a lot in risk management, so financial risk management. Craig was a hedge fund bond guy. So those, if we get 3 more people like that, that's what we want. People who don't have a conflict in developing, but understand how to deal with financing and what the risks are. So because we're looking at a lot of spreadsheets, we're looking at pro formas and those kinds of things. That's the ideal fit, and a marketing person.
Yeah. What about the people who know about, there are trade groups like, I'm blanking on the name, but over like in Park City, they've got, the business trade group. I'm not remembering who it is, but they've got people that are experienced in local business, or and they may be some of them may be developers. But you sound like you're looking for financial whizzes, right? People that are used to like moving money around from one place to another, or being and how does that help us as a municipality? I'm having a little trouble making that connection, because private sector and public sector are not the same thing.
Yeah, all good points, Chris. And I don't think one person has all the qualifications. Typically, you don't find one individual who's developed a career in one area of business who's got all these things. I think we're trying to find, a good economic development committee is going to be comprised of, again, individuals who have financial background, who maybe have some sales and marketing background, so they can talk to folks on attracting them to the benefits of our town, and maybe other, 1 or 2 other people who understand, what to deal with around, or just in general real estate, but aren't maybe real estate developers. I think those are the components of a good committee. It's not going to be perfect, just like your committee. You may have 3 or 4 thoughts about what would be the best with, parks and open spaces. But so there's going to be a group that will, coalesce And then we'll look for the gaps, so we'll look for people who can fill our gaps in town. The other piece that I have, and I don't know if I even included it in here, as opposed to the other committees, I think I added this, I can't remember if I added this in the final, the last iteration, Alicia, but, want people who live in town, who have vested interest, they're voters in town. So I know that hasn't been, an absolute
It's
requirement.
in here, Ralph.
Sorry? Okay. I
There
think
is
I did-
language in here for that.
Yeah, and I think as our town grows, I think it's really important that the folks on this particular committee live in town, vote in town. I always felt that way for the planning commission as well. I mean, it's like, don't come in and be an outsider and try to plan my town. You don't have that same gut feeling for, what you should be doing. Same thing here. So want smart people, who have probably a high level of qualifications in those three particular big areas, and that live in town and that vote in town. And that will sign that conflict of interest, therefore, at least they have agreed to a level of impartiality. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So Chris, let me throw one more thought in just for you and the council edification. So we came to this committee need through experience. We spent a lot of town resource looking at folders, looking at Benlock, looking at, right? And looking at the proposals for up here by the town hall. And we need some folks that are going to help us look at what's being brought to us and get to at least a high level sense of the pros and cons of that before we spend a ton of time on it, because we're paying Polly to look at it, we're paying Thomas to look at it, we're diverting town resources, engineering resources to look at these things. And it'd be nice to know early on if we think there's enough upside to devote those resources. Around the economic benefits of something coming in versus the land use and stuff. So if they're coming in as an economic benefit proposal, we ought to get our arms around that fairly quickly before we spend a ton of resources. If they're coming in because it's zoned, 1 per acre and they want to build 1 per acre, there's, that we don't need an EDC. But for those people who are coming and selling the idea of bringing additional benefits to the town, we need to be able to look at those and say, because sometimes we'll get numbers that'll be, I would say, optimistic. For example, upside kind of numbers, which is intended to whet our appetite. When the reality is, if you get a hotel that's running 70% full, capacity, that's a pretty darn good one, as opposed to a 90% kind of number, which it's really hard to do. So that's part of why we were looking for this, is to try and not spend so much time crawling through multiple iterations and details with some of these guys without knowing that there is really some upside.
Yeah,
that's what
because I
they're
mean, you
offering.
say you met every Monday. I mean, that's a lot of meetings. And, I don't know what we've gotten out of it. I don't recall getting any reports or many presentations. I'm not sure. So are you trying to reset the committee so that you get the right people in, and then you're actually are able to come up with some ideas and be able to deliver them the way you're expecting?
Yeah, I mean, the most recent work, Chris, was around the development of the RFI for the state park entrance area.
So
Yeah,
the committee worked on that?
Chris, you bring up some points there. We purposely did not want to present on everything we did for the sensitive nature of the information sometimes that you're getting. But I'm pushing back on that concept, and I think the more we are transparent, and I think the better off we are. So
That's
rather
what the
than
people want, Ralph. They want transparency. That's why there's
Yeah.
so much
I'm not a happy camper when it's not transparent to me. And so, in the future, we're gonna have regular reports. The committee members should, like, when Craig and Scott, presented, we should have regular reports and it should be transparent. I think too often, we can dig ourselves in a hole, by being not transparent. So totally agree with you. I'm pushing it totally in the other direction so that we are transparent. Everything is, open. And, that we still have to have those meetings where we're not boring everyone with 52 pages of spreadsheets. But that we can summarize that at our regular meetings or, from time to time, but more frequently than we had done.
That sounds good to me, Ralph. Good change in direction. And I look forward to that.
Yeah, I
Not
just
the
wanna jump in.
spreadsheets, but the executive summary.
Go ahead, Mayor, because I know there's different opinions on this. So, but that's where I'm thinking, let's be, and all this stuff, water commissions, et cetera. Let's be transparent, more transparent. Got nothing to lose.
I'd like to jump in on that comment because it concerns me the way it's being stated. There's nothing that they did that isn't transparent in the fact that, anything that they don't get to make any decisions. They simply are doing some vetting. That then comes to, our public processes. So the work that they've done is not some secret backroom stuff here. It's, they're grinding away, looking at analyses before somebody comes and presents to us and says, this is gonna generate $1 million for the town. They looked at it and said, well, actually, we don't think that's correct. We think you're only going to generate $700,000 or $650,000. And that's what comes forward. So they're not hiding in the background, making deals by any means. They're simply helping us see, when it comes to planning commission or us, we're seeing numbers that they've looked at and feel, some confidence about. So.
And I just, I'm going to ask one last question. How is the committee filling a gap maybe that you wouldn't get from working with maybe Zion's Public Finance or any of the other, I can't remember who they are, people, companies we've hired to do financial analysis, for potential projects. How is the Economic Development Committee filling in maybe a gap that we're not getting through those paid consultants?
That's correct. Chris. I would agree that there's another way to do it, but it's funds we don't have. So
I have a
we have
place where.
residents who have skills that can help us, then let's use them.
Big Glynis wants to
Yeah,
jump in there.
the planning commission has been grilling Bloom and previously Boulders about about getting commercial in, but we have, well, me in particular, have no concept of the financial needs of the town, and B, what these developments can bring. So I think there's a gap in the planning commission that needs somebody who could have some input there, because we're just supposed to be about land, and that's what I know, but I don't know the economic side of it.
And having been on three planning commissions in my life, it's hard to divorce yourself out of, asking a question that's land use, but what's the economics related to? But we should be the folks, the EDC, it's not me. The EDC should be diving deep on risk, on numbers, on being able to talk to a CEO of a corporation and saying, is this an appealing place to be? If it's if it's, you're talking about marketing to a hotel or a developer like this. I think we need some additional people listen, I keep saying this, I don't know how many times I've had similar discussion, and the value of our town is the intellectual property. we talked about this in the world of technology. The value of your corporation is tied up into your intellectual property. Our intellectual property is right here. There are a lot of smart people living in this town who are willing to volunteer. We've got hedge funds managers, risk managers, folks that fill in all these marketers. That's the unique thing about our town. If we can keep tapping into those resources for this community just to pull 2 or 3 people out, what a benefit if we're not having to, I'll take that over Zion's Bank because we have to pay Zion's Bank. And those people don't live in our town. And the difference in the meetings that I've seen with the EDC is not only are they really smart numbers and financial people, but their lens is Hideout. Their lens is what's good for us. And that is something you can't get from an outsider. And so we just have a unique scenario on the intellectual property of the people of our town, probably more so per capita. What did you say, Jim? We have the highest per capita in the state. It's also evident in the per capita quality of our intellectual capabilities. So that's how let's build upon that. Let's use it. I'll stop there. That's my film for today. Any other thoughts on this? We can move on.
No, thanks, Ralph. I really appreciate you taking all the questions and some of the hard questions. But yeah, it's good. So when you do have the committee reestablished, we'll get a committee update from economic development every month like we do from the others.
That's the plan.
Okay, great. And then you guys pick and choose, obviously, what's too sensitive to talk about, or what you think is appropriate to talk about. We don't tell you everything either in this update, but we tell you the important stuff.
Yeah, that's the approach.
Okay, thank you, Ralph. Appreciate your effort on this. You got some thoughts for some adjustments. When I first looked at your document, Ralph, I swear I saw it said people had to live there, but now I couldn't, when I went back through it, I couldn't find it. So I have to read it again, or you have to read it again.
Yeah,
I think there is language in there.
I think preferred resident, preferred voter, in town.
Yeah.
I just think that creates a better environment.
Okay. Let's move on to committee updates. Glennis has been patient for some time. So Glennis, why don't you go first on the planning commission?
What? You should go up there. No, I can't go up there. I can't see you on the camera. That's okay. I'm closer to the microphone. You can hear me better. I wanted to come.
The camera sees you anyway, Glennis, so you can't.
Okay. Well, I wanted to come so I could hear Bloom's presentation. Because that's what we're going to be reviewing in our meeting next week. We're going to potentially make a recommendation for the zoning and MDA. Correct?
Yeah.
So that's what's on our agenda next week. And I believe that's all of this on our agenda next week.
That's right. Benlock was going to present, but they've asked for the continuation of 1 month. Yeah.
Right. So that's it.
Okay, thanks, Glennis. Community engagement, Sherry.
Yes, hi. We had a great meeting last night. We went over everything we did in the summer, and we have a lot of great ideas for the season upcoming, both winter and next summer. We did the event at the state park on September 17th. It was a free concert. A lot of people from the greater community came, and I think it gave us some great publicity in the for the town. we're going to do, one of our committee members has put together a survey to send out to residents to see what kind of events they would like to see and what kind of community outreach. The next event we're going to do is a blanket drive with Peace House. They need blankets. So we're going to put that together for November. And then I'll keep you posted on the upcoming events from there. That's about all I got right now.
Thanks.
And Sherry, we talked about putting together a 501c3, if you remember.
Oh, right. Yes, we're going to put together, make a nonprofit account to be able to collect money for the town, because my accountant questions my using Venmo to collect money and then pay the town. It just gets confusing. And I think this would be a better use. And that way we could get matching funds from grants, which will help the town as well. So we're working on that. Thank you, Jan, for that suggestion.
Yeah, good idea. For sure. Chris, post.
Okay, the post committee met on September 19th. We were focused on the MAG UDOT Trails meeting that happened on September 28th, and I'll get to that in a moment. We, Thomas, still need to work on an engineering study, getting the money for that, for the spine trail. So just reminding you that that's sort of probably stands in our way to really make any progress on that. Kathleen invited Jason Whitaker, who's the Jordan State Park manager, to our next meeting, which is next week, but he's not available. So Jan and I still have a to-do item. I think we both possibly reached out to him individually, but I haven't been able to get hold of him, to work on the local park pass negotiations. So Mayor, I don't know if you've talked to him either, but the time is now, I think, to finally get at what exactly is the fee that the state park is, what are we going to be able to negotiate with the state park as far as the fee for that local pass that we've been talking about for a long time. And, ensuring that Hideout is paying fairly compared to the other HOAs that might be participating in this program as well. And when I say the other HOAs, I mean like Sky Ridge,
and those kinds of places.
And those places, exactly. So, the time is now. I think he mentioned he will be printing the park passes, the local park passes, and he needs to know how many are print. And anyway, we've got to get that going, finally get a number. I know we have money budgeted in starting in January for this in our approved budget for this fiscal year, and I have no idea if we have enough or too much. We just don't know anything yet. So there's that. The claim trails, we thought we might have an opportunity to maybe do trail design late this summer, but at this point that we're going to be putting that off till 2024. The access points are still under construction, and but we need to get a plan going. There's always that balance. We have to have a project and a plan before we can go for grant money, and the grants come and go, and we haven't done anything because we haven't done our project work. So I think claim is going to, we're going to kind of put it to rest until after the snow melts, and then we'll come back to claim. But with that, I want to ask Carol, I think you had volunteered that you'd like to give a summary of what happened at that UDOT MAG Trails meeting. I was not able to attend, but Jan, Carol, Rachel, and Brian were there. So Carol, would you give us a summary?
Sure.
Thank you.
Basically, it was a UDOT workshop, but it was all about trails, which I thought was really interesting. And the big important thing was they have money. They have a lot of money. They have $45 million to start with, plus another $45 million to use for their new trails division, which is a whole network of paved trails. And the concept behind it is to connect all ages and abilities. And it's serving a regional purpose, and it's part of an active transportation plan so that it ties in with transportation. And there is a website, which is Utah Trail. Well, anyhow, I'll get that to you. And they also talked about rest stops all along this trail system. And so they're looking for a public-private partnership for that, where they would have, possibly a coffee kiosk or that type of thing by the rest stops, or some food or food truck or something. And then they made a big point that our spine trail, we did talk briefly about spine trail because we broke into workshops, that they need our town council to show great support for the spine trail. And there's also an online map, and they talked about what the connections were. And it started at the lowest level. It started in Provo, and it came up 189. And then they're taking it through Heber. And with Heber, they want to get it away from the main transportation and traffic areas. So they want to take it more into different communities in Heber. And then it would connect to 40 and come up 40. And it would also go along 32. And then after 40, it would cross over and it would go along the Jordanelle Parkway. And then it would connect to 248 and go through Hideout. And they had talked about also the fact that they wanted to keep it lower, away from the highway, and maybe keep it closer to following the Jordanelle perimeter trail, somewhere along there before it came up onto 240, up to where 248 is. And then it would connect to Heber. And then from Heber, it would go, let's see, I'm trying to get my directions. It would go towards Peoa and Oakley. And a lot of that is in already. So, I mean, they were talking about how to connect all of this together. Then they talked about the Park City component, which would be using the rail trail section into Park City. So all of these things they were talking about. But they do have a lot of money, and they do have a new section, UDOT does, called the Utah Trail Network. And so they introduced all the people that were instrumental in forming these different committees. So this is just the very first meeting of probably many more meetings to come. So we looked at maps, each table, I think there were 6 tables, and each table had a huge map. And so we all prioritized where we thought the trail should be to connect. So any questions on that?
Well, Caroline, just the spine trail you mentioned. I mean, this is the Hideout paved
Right, the
trail
Hideout.
that's going to connect Summit County to Summit County through Hideout.
Right.
And
They're
that
very
was-
much aware of it, because you were concerned that they know that we're trying to do that. And yes, they are very much aware of it.
when they said they needed Hideout, council support, what exactly does that mean?
I think they just wanted maybe the council to give some type of declaration or some type of statement saying that we support the spine trail going through Hideout. So
We
that was,
already have it in our general plan addendum. We have it in our the post plan, which is part of our general plan. So can we provide that to them? And is
Yeah.
that the declaration they're looking for?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Right.
All right, thanks. So Mayor, sorry, Caroline, I didn't have a chance to talk. So we're
Right.
having this conversation in public now. But Carol, thank you so much for going to that meeting. Did they say when the next follow-up would be, or
No,
how you'd be
they-
contacted?
They were going to, I think, look at everything that came out of this meeting and all the requests and how the maps were drawn, that kind of thing. So And then they also talked about taking it down into Salt Lake, besides into Park City, that it would go down to Salt Lake, because there's a big section of it that has been done already.
Mhm.
They said, so that, it's just the idea of connecting everything, but they want it to be available to all ages and all abilities, which made me think that a lot of it would have to be paved, for people with disabilities.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That's why we're contemplating for the spine trail, 10-foot paved trail, bikes, anything, e-bikes, baby stroller carriages, road bikes,
Yeah,
people
and-
running, people walking, commuters. Yeah, that's what our vision is for that
Right.
Particular trail. It's different from the other trails we have, which are mostly recreation,
Exactly.
dirt trails. Yep.
Right.
All right, thanks, Carol. That was awesome.
Okay.
And so we have another committee meeting next week on Tuesday, and I think we'll talk more about that and see if we can kind of get some traction on some items.
Okay.
Where we can go from here. So, Mayor, that's kind of the overview. I don't know if Jan or Thomas
great, Chris.
have anything
Thank
they want to add. They might have gotten out of our recent meetings.
Just as
I
a,
was,
I have a
Sure.
question.
as a
In our, I don't know what, I can't remember what they're called.
I'll say something later.
Used to call them, that are ordinances for
Resolution.
planning commission. Do we have, somewhere where a developer has to show where the trails are gonna be?
Yes.
Oh, the MDA in their development?
We
Or
typically
we
require
put
that
in
on
MDA?
their submitted concept plan, and then we include that on their subdivisions as well,
Mhm.
so that it's noted in there. Yeah,
It's something missing from Bloom.
they haven't yet submitted it. They have to finalize a landscape plan and a trail plan, yes.
They have to, you don't put in the trails at this point.
Okay, right.
They got a long way to go.
Right.
Yeah, that was a change, when we 6 years ago, we started getting more mature with our requirements, I think. And so a lot of Hideout now doesn't have any trails because it was prior, that was all approved under the original master development agreement. And there weren't any trails in that at all. So that's one of the reasons why we don't have very much yet. We're still waiting. Where we have opportunity, when there are new development subdivisions, as Thomas was saying, when they come in, they're required to, on their concept plans, show where the trails would be. And then, we do have a few new ones that are built. The best trail in town is the Oh Deer Flow Trail that's over in Deer Springs. Carol, you know that one because we hiked up it a little bit. And also it just recently got a makeover, so it's back to pretty good condition, but we don't have a lot to work with just yet in town. We're still trying to get the what's owed to us created.
Thanks, Chris. At one point, the HOA was involved, the master HOA was involved in trying to do some trail projections. They published a trail plan. I think it's still on their website on the Community Preservation Association. I don't know if they had any intention of providing any kind of funding or support for the project, but it may be worth reaching out to Will and see where they are on that.
Yeah, so then I don't, one of the things that we stipulate that we can do is we're talking about public trails. And that's really what we're trying to develop, from our post plan. And so, yeah, those trails over that are on the map for Golden Eagle, that used to be published in the HOA website. I don't know if they're still there or not. Those are private trails. So
I was referring to the spine trail, which I think by definition would have to be public, and they were planning to do support of that somewhere in there because they reflected it on their map. Like, there's no way you can make a spine trail on SR 248 private.
Oh, I didn't realize that's what you're talking about. Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, no, thanks for reminding me of that. I do remember that line on a map, but that's really predicated on what UDOT is willing to do because it's very likely going to be in the UDOT right of way if we're able to put anything
Right.
there. So,
I mean, the fact that they were reflecting it and supposedly had conversations with UDOT at one point, I don't know.
okay, well,
Is
thanks.
anything
Yeah, we
more?
should definitely engage them again. If it's true though, what Carol's saying that that UDOT actually doesn't want us on the highway, they really want us to go along the power line, come up from come up from the state park on the power, along the power lines, come here, or Carol, they were talking about those power lines or they were the transmission lines, or were they talking about
Right,
the
they
lines
were
that are
talking more
along?
about those power lines, but it wasn't that we had to do it.
Mhm.
They just felt it was more logical.
Well,
And
trails under power lines is always something that Thomas has said, these are opportunities for us to be able to,
Right.
use that space. So we should definitely look into it.
Right, and Don Taylor was sitting at our table.
Okay.
And I think that he talked about it a little bit too. So, which doesn't mean, it wasn't like that's where it has to be. It was
Right.
like that made the most sense.
Well, we should look at it for sure. And I think maybe we'll talk about that in our committee next week
Yeah.
a little bit. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Chris. Carol, is there, I know there's some exciting news in the transportation space about direct buses to the resorts.
Yes,
That's very
exactly.
exciting.
Yes. So they are going to be, it's very interesting. I finally got hold of somebody at the town council or at Park City. And this was after our last meeting, but before the other news came out. And he was adamant. He said it's going to be exactly the same as it was last year. They're going to run the buses from Richardson Flat, stop at the high school and then go to the transit center and you would have to transfer. And he was adamant about it. And I just said, oh, it doesn't make a lot of sense. That's not what people want. And then it was a couple of weeks ago, I heard on the radio, and then they've had a couple discussions about it since, that yes, they are going to run buses directly to the resorts. They will be going directly to Park City Resort and to Deer Valley Resort. And both of those resorts are putting in $150,000 to pay towards these buses, but they were still short on money from what Park City was going to pay. So they finally compromised and they're cutting off a week at the beginning of ski season and they're stopping it on March 31st. So it'll be a little bit shorter time frame span, but they are going to run them directly. And it looks like pretty much the hours are going to be the same as last year, that they'll start pretty early in the morning. I think the first bus was at 7 that leaves from Richardson Flat, and then they will be running pretty late at night. So it will, if you work in Park City or you go for dinner, you'll be able to catch a bus back out. So I think it's great news, but they're going to have to make sure that they plow the entire parking lot, because last year they didn't. And sometimes it was tough to get a parking spot in the parking lot. So because half of it was not plowed. So I'm assuming they will plow it all this year. Okay, so that's the good news. And it probably should go in the newsletter, right? I know one just came out, but at least in the next newsletter, so people know they can pick up the bus and go directly to the resorts. Okay, any questions?
No, I've got good news though. Thank you, Carol.
Yep.
Great news. Yeah. Good. All right. So that's the committee meeting updates. We'll move to item 7, which is the approval of council minutes. Let's start with the older one first. So let's start with April 13th, 2023. Again, in advance, thanks to Alicia for all her efforts on these things. She's done a great job in pulling it all together. So This one talked about Golden Eagle. It had some various inputs from the public. We had the quarterly report from sheriff. We had a presentation on ranked choice voting. We had the audit review and adding of the planning commission, new planning commission members. And the ALJ, the double ALJs, so we had someone available at all times. And the budget, so a fairly busy meeting, there's a lot of notes in here. And and the sewer station, so. Yeah, and weed control, wow, lots of changes. So there's a lot in here. So I'm not gonna read it, you've all hopefully read it, and if you have comments on the minutes, please, this is your time. I did peruse it earlier and I found it to be a good summary of what took place. Personally, I don't have any changes for it.
Nope, I did go through it. I thought it was good, excellent. Anybody else?
Exactly.
I don't have any comments from the older set of minutes, but when we get to last month's.
I
yeah.
do. I've got one on the next one too.
Okay, me too.
Okay, so for the April 13th minutes, I need a motion to approve.
I
So
so moved.
moved. Oh, sorry.
Okay, thank you, Carol.
I'll second Chris.
Any second? Thank you, Chris. Okay, Ralph,
Yes.
you vote. Thank you. Sherry,
Yes.
thank you. Bob,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
and Carol.
Yes,
Thank you. The April 13th minutes are approved. The next set is September 14th minutes, so let me jump to those. Okay, so I heard some folks say they have some comments, so tell me where you want to jump to. Whoever wants to
okay,
go
mine
first.
is on
Carol?
page 81.
Okay.
I mean, it's very minor. It's just a change in a word. Oh, wow, okay.
Maybe 82.
Maybe, yeah, let me look and see. No, because it was line 8, so it wouldn't be that. Shoot.
Well,
Carol,
how
are you
about
on
page- how
version
about the
2
page
or
one?
version 3? Which one are you looking at?
How about page? How about page number, Carol? Do you have the
Yeah,
not
it was
82
pa-
page,
Page,
but
I
the
wrote down
page in the minutes?
81. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, it was line 8, so go back to this and see if it's line 8. Nope, it's not there. It was just a word, somewhere in there, there was a word committed, and it should have been, oh, there, okay, there it is, line 8 on this page. It should be, I think, commitment. Acknowledged her concerns and commitment to enforcing regulations. It may,
All right, Alicia, can you make that note? Because this is I could I guess I can put a sticker on it, but
You bet. Yep, I got it.
because I don't have this is a PDF, so I can't write on it.
Oh, yeah, on that one, I was wondering, I mean, I could put a comma there instead. It's kind of a run-on sentence, I think,
and then have. Okay.
but anyway. I got
Anyhow, I
it.
just, right, that was the
I
only
got it.
thing.
I got it circled anyway.
Okay.
Thank you, Carol. Anything else in there?
Nope, I didn't, but Chris did.
Just
Okay,
one,
Chris?
it's on, on page 2 of the Minutes, yeah, here, line 28, 27. Were there any plans to mitigate the disturbance and erosion caused by, and I think it's supposed to be limit of disturbance?
It is
No,
supposed to be limits of disturbance,
Right.
yeah.
that's the only comment I saw. I always thought LOD was limit of disturbance.
It is.
Yep.
It is limits of disturbance, it is.
Okay,
So Alicia, if you'd make that modification,
Got it. Thanks.
Yep, you're welcome.
thank you. Good pick up, Chris. I scanned right over it and didn't even. see
Well, you
that.
know, when you read them fast, I'm just so super excited that these were the minutes from our very last meeting. That's amazing. And I'm happy, so happy to see them. It was
I'm sure.
not as happy as Alicia is, but
You're right.
I'm sure. Okay, any other comments on the September 14 minutes?
I don't have any more.
oh, I don't either.
Okay. All right, and I'm sorry, somebody say something? All right, and I need a motion to approve the September 14th minutes with the 2 corrections we identified.
So moved.
Thank you, Bob.
I'll second.
Thank you, Sherry. Ralph,
Yeah,
thank you. Chris,
Yes.
thank you. Carol,
Yes,
thank you. Sherry
Yes.
and Bob,
Yes.
thank you. Minutes are approved. Appreciate that. Okay. That brings us to the end of our agenda. We'll have
You wanna
follow-up
do-
items.
Yeah, follow-up items.
follow up.
there are a
So
couple in
anybody-
the, Mayor, one on the April one was, on the, what is it, the alternative voting, must be
Right.
getting late, stack rank voting, I think.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
just to get ahead of that, because I think the problem in April was we didn't have enough time, so if we want to revisit that, we should get that somewhere on the calendar. I don't know, to give us a couple of months before, our expiration. I'm looking at Alicia, she may know that. And actually, you did a nice job of capturing, or we went over some of the open action items in that meeting, and you had 4 or 5 spots. You had 4 or 5 items to track. And then the only other one that I had was last month we had, we spent a bit on the speeding. And I hate to say it, but I'm seeing a worse situation coming around at least one person told me they almost got whacked by somebody coming out of Longview, coming from the shoreline area, who didn't make, a contract, it was a contractor truck. And just, makes the left back up to, the height, getting out of Hideout without going around. And, that's gonna be head-on collision at some point. I don't know what we do. So you got the shoreline situation, you got things like that. Somebody's gonna get whacked. And I hope it's not me at this point. I hope it's not anybody. So I don't know what we can do, because we can't give anyone a ticket based upon Utah law for putting a camera in there. So I don't, anyway, food for thought, because the other piece is, I know up on Longview, around Lasso and a few other spots, you can hardly get around some of the construction vehicles who are parked. So you got that piece. You got some of the contractors are obviously not even going around or circle. They just make a left turn there because it's expedient. And then we got the shoreline problem from, last month. Sounds like we're going in a worse direction that we are going in a good direction. And I'm, there's no
let me
blame
try-
around here, just that this is an issue.
Let me try and address that, Ralph. So I mentioned last month that we had a traffic study underway. That traffic study has been completed. Tim promised me it was going to be in my mailbox today. It may come tomorrow. I don't know if Tim's still on, but we know we have it. It's close. So we would plan to go through it and the recommendations. And then we'll come to you guys and share what we've learned from that and what we think we need to do. The construction parking, Ralph, it requires constant diligence, which we don't have the resources to provide. I've mentioned that before. Our guys do drive through town and they do address it when they see it. But these guys show up and double park all the time. It's crazy. I talked with T.O., who has also done some traffic work for us on pinch points and stuff, and that's due to come to me as well. Ryan was indisposed before reviewing that. And so we'll have a whole bunch of recommendations and thoughts from these two efforts in the next week or so we can try and consolidate all that and bring it in front of us and figure out what's the best way to attack some of these issues. The units facing each other on Shoreline is a major concern. It's a super pinch point. We're gonna have to put some red lines down there and ensure that nobody's parking opposite each other. It's crazy. And even though the construction is done there, I mean, the residents are also guilty at times, or the deliveries to those residents, or, the services that they get. So we know that's a major issue. So, and we'll go through all that, and hopefully Ralph will have some actionable recommendations from these two studies to enable us to, take some changes as far as speed controls and that kind of stuff. We can put cameras up, though, as you mentioned, I can't give tickets, but it doesn't mean we can't find out who folks are and, have a chat with them.
Yeah, I would just say, I would just add
The other thing,
that, waiting a month, so I would, if you can take action as you see fit, that's, just because I'm just afraid somebody coming, it's like, if these guys continue to do.
no, we'll take action. We'll keep you abreast of those actions.
That's fair enough.
Next month.
I don't know if we can solve this.
Yeah. The other thing we can do is with camera data, we can find repeat offenders and ban them if they're service people. We certainly can
Give us all summons
tell
books
people
here.
they're not. We can't ban them from driving on the road, but we can instruct their leadership or whatever that driver or whatever is not welcome in Hideout.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
It's not easy to do, but
I don't know how we would do that, Mayor. I mean, we live in the United States, right? I don't know how we do that. It's public road.
Well, Chris, I use the cameras at the roundabout to get people who drive around the roundabout the wrong way. They get given to the sheriff's office. Those guys do make contacts for us.
Okay, it sounds like Ralph had one. He witnessed one, so maybe we can dig that footage up.
Yeah, I mean,
Chris,
if we can capture it on camera, we can have contacts.
And Mayor, this is Tim. Hey, and one thing that I will tell you that we did find when we did our spot speed studies is that it's there. Everyone is pretty much driving pretty much close to the speed limit. We had a 40 mile an hour was our high, and we had a 15 mile an hour, which was our low. The average median is about 25-ish. And the majority of the speeders were cars and they weren't vehicles from like our home builders and stuff like that, surprisingly. So that's in the data from the traffic study. So we're still trying to get, it's just a draft. I'm still trying to knock that out. Hopefully early next week and get that to you to have discussions on. So.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all that it could be residents. Very well, it could be residents driving too fast. So I'm looking forward to that. Maybe there's some kind of campaign we can put together to educate people on why it's important for the community, for them not to speed through town. We can figure out a way to scare them. I don't know, scare them straight with some horror story of you look away and you run somebody over and your life is ruined and there goes your Porsche and your house, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. We will figure something out, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there are a number of communities that around the country that have done some pretty interesting campaigns with some pretty tongue-in-cheek kind of signs that get the message across.
Well, the airlines figured it out with those really boring, safety videos. Some of them are pretty funny, and they get people say, so I don't know. But I think if we're creative and we can figure out a way to get that information out, again, we can leverage our, communication platforms that we need to start using more to reach people. Be a good way to, try to beef those up too.
Yeah. We can, there's a number of campaigns we can do, including just,
these are all good ideas, but you and I know, we all know that we can't do everything, right? We're going to have to pick and choose what we focus on. I think we had some ideas about slowing traffic down by putting more stop signs in. We also talked about speed bumps and other things. So when this traffic study comes out, are we going to have also recommendations on ways to mitigate air? Okay, good. That's what I think we should focus on, that and see, what we think we can do with our limited resources.
Yeah.
What seems effective to me is those orange and white pillars that are at the far end of Shoreline Drive, close to Ross Creek. Those do slow people down the way they've got them positioned, because you got to go slow to get through there.
Yeah, they do, Carol. And, we got to find a way to do that in a way that those things unfortunately are portable and get moved, because when the big trucks come through, they have to move them and stuff. So we got to come up with a version of that in necking down the road. Maybe doable. They do it up by, if you run the service road between Whole Foods and Jeremy, that's kind of over the top, but they've done some things to make it so you have no choice, because it's impossible to drive because it swerves all over the place.
Yeah, no, I call that the chicane. That thing is crazy. And people don't follow it. They don't follow the lines there. I do. It's fun, it's like a rough turn here and a turn here. That's ridiculous. But no,
Anyway.
you're right. But pinching it down.
All right,
Pinching
time
it down.
out. Okay, we got the message. We're going to work on it and come up with some things that should help. Okay. So at this point, we're going to close the follow-up discussion, and I don't believe, Polly, we have a need for a closed session.
I don't think so. There's nothing, I can give you a quick update, but I can just send that. There's nothing pressing.
Okay. And then in which case I'd be looking for a motion to close the meeting of the 12th of October, 2023 and call it a night.
So moved.
Second from the
Thank you, Ralph.
town hall.
Okay.
Nice to be in person.
It worked pretty well, Alicia, and thanks for all your efforts in getting it set up. We have some more work to do in that room, but it's a really good start. Motion and second I have, so Chris, are you okay to end the meeting?
Yes.
Sherry,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
and Ralph.
Yes.
Okay, thank you all. Meeting's over and have a great night.
Thank you.
Good
Bye.
night.